Oh, yeah. Ooh. Shooter. Stuck in my way. Sang my name. Shooter. Welcome to the stream. That makes it Monday morning already. That means we are going to work on the Tactical Dragon. We are going to get some prints rolling out here and moving on. But we're going to jump into some Sherlock Holmes. 'Tis the tradition. It is negative. Time carving out. Negative 2 degrees outside right now in central Wisconsin. Who remembers where we left off here? All right, the Island of Death.
However, it began in Australia, as so many of our adventures began, in our rooms at Baker Street. It was on a stormy September evening, and Holmes and I were seated on either side of our parties. I remember after dinner that he began to analyze the old cliché that truth is indeed stranger than fiction. I can almost hear him now, as he said, "My dear Watson, the true picture of the criminal world is stranger than anything which the mind of man could invent." Oh, I'm not sure I agree with you, Holmes. Police reports from the papers are usually quite undistinguished and dull. True, old chap. But that's the fault of the reporters. Depend upon it, Watson, there's nothing so unnatural as the commonplace. Oh, let's put it to a practical test. I forgot the evening paper. Here is the first heading upon which I come. A husband's cruelty to his wife. Now, there's a half column of print, and I bet you that without reading it, I can tell you the gist of the trouble. I accept your bet, Watson. Give me your deduction. Good. There is, of course, the other woman. The extra drink, the push, the blow, bruise, and the sympathetic sister, all landlady. The crudest of writers could invent nothing more crude. Your example is an unfortunate one for your argument, old fellow. The article to which you refer is the Dundas separation case. The husband was a teetotaler. There was no other woman, and the conduct complained of was that he had drifted into the unfortunate habit of winding up every meal by taking out his false teeth and curling them with his wife. An action which I think you will agree is not likely to occur to the imagination of the average storyteller. Curling false teeth? Absolutely fantastic. Right. Who does that mean? You expecting a visitor? Yes, Watson, I am. And he might well prove a client who will point out the moral of our little discussion. Oh, what makes you say that? The gentleman calling on me is a distinctly colorful personality by the name of Stephen Singer. He's nearly 7 feet tall, and yet he weighs under 8 stone. A client from him this morning informed me of his intention of calling here at 7 o'clock tonight. You said that he weighs under 8 stone? That's only 130 pounds. He must be a human skeleton. That was the unfortunate title applied to him at the circus sideshow at which I first met him. It's got circus freaks here in Baker Street. I've seen everything. Freak is an unkind and inappropriate word, Watson. Stephen Singer is a fellow human being, and a more than unusually wary one. In the case of the Bagshot Circus murders, he was good enough to take advantage of his almost unique physical proportion and oblige me by hiding in the barrel of a circus cannon. His evidence was instrumental in sending a diabolical murderer to the gallows. Let him in, would you want? Yes, good. Good evening, Mr. Singer. Come along in, won't you? Go on, thank you, Mrs. Hudson. And glad to see you again, Stephen. Hello, Mr. Holmes. Don't want to make a nuisance of myself, but I did have a little problem, and I thought perhaps you'd help me with it. Of course, Stephen. Sit down, won't you? By the way, this is my colleague, Dr. Watson. How do you do, Doctor? How do you do, Mr. Singer? My friend was just telling me that you once helped him in a murder case. Oh, That drug doesn't. Just slip myself into the cannon barrel and heard one or two things I wasn't meant to.
Nevertheless, your help was invaluable, Stephen. I shall be only too happy to do what I can to repay the favor. What's your problem?
Well, perhaps I'm imagining things and perhaps I'm not. But wouldn't you say it was a rum thing if a professor offered me and three of my pals in the service 50 quid apiece to go to some island in Scotland for a week?
Yes, indeed, I should say that's extremely odd. Can you give me a few more facts?
Well, Mr. Holmes, this professor come to the circus 3 nights ago when we was playing a Trafford at the bow.
What was his name?
Professor McElway. Funny looking coat with a bushy red beard he was.
Indeed. I've heard of the gentleman. I understand that he is something of a rebel in the medical profession. He returned from Vienna recently where he's been studying under Dr. Freud.
Dr. Freud,
You will, Watson, you will. He devotes himself to the psychological aspects of the human body. Pray continue with your story, Stephen.
Well, Mr. Holmes, he approached me and three of my pals.
And who are those pals?
Well, there was Bill Carew, the major we call him. He's a midget. And there was Belle Brackett, the fat lady. And the third was a bloke who joined the circus 2 days ago. Jeff Ward is his name. I haven't seen his act, but he bills himself as the injured upper man. And the professor promised us 50 quid apiece on tickets on the Scotch Express tomorrow morning and told us he'd have a boat waiting to ferry us out to his island when we got there.
Holmes, there's something devilish going on here. A professor who studies psychology wants 4 people to go to a lonely island. A midget, a contortionist, a fat lady, and a fourth book.
That's all right. I'm used to it, Doctor. The false human skeleton. Oh, that's what you were going to say. Now, we all agreed to go up there. We didn't like the bloke, but none of us can turn down 50 quid. But we got to dropping after he gone. Supposing he's up to doing us a bit of no good. And anyway, he made us sign that paper.
Paper? What paper?
I don't remember it too well, Mr. Holmes, but it did say that if anything was to happen to us, the professor wasn't responsible. That's what started us to talking and worrying after he'd gone. And that's why I've come to you.
I'm glad that you did, Stephen. Did you inform your friends of your decision to come to see me?
No, Mr. Holmes, I didn't. I might have done it if I'd have been sure you wouldn't have laughed at me.
I'm convinced that this is no laughing matter, Stephen. Unless I'm much mistaken, there's devil's work afoot.
And then you'll come up there with us, Mr. Holmes?
Yes. Tomorrow morning, Dr. Watson and I will meet you in Scotland.
Choppy, Holmes. Not much more. I hope it's not too far to the island. I'm a written sailor, you know.
I'm sure it'll be a smooth trip, Watson.
Well, I certainly hope so. Hello? Here comes Singer with the other 3. Well, stop. What strange-looking traveling companion.
Well, since they've traveled on an earlier train, I think it's time to have Stephen introduce us. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Mr. Holmes. I'm likely to meet some pals of mine. Dr. Watson, Mr. Holmes. This is Miss Belle Brackett. Careful, Belle, watch your step on the gangplank.
Well, dearie, got to be a strong plank of old dear. How are you, Mr. Rose? Dr. Watson?
This is Bertoldi. Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson.
Don't know what you do on the bill, Governor. But I'll kick the back of my head with both feet at once.
Oh, really? They're useful, I imagine. Maybe you're not turning up.
What's your act, gentlemen? Act? Well, we haven't exactly got an act. Just regard us as friends of Stephen's. We thought a little trip to the Highlands might do us good. It'll do me £50 worth of good. That's all I know.
Put 50 more pounds on me, dearie, and I'd expect so.
And this is Bill Carew, the major, we call him. Dr. Watson, Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Gentlemen, I do hope this isn't going to be a long journey. I'm really rather a poor sailor.
I just have to say everything myself, Mr. Carew.
Oh, call me Major. Everyone calls me Major. I suppose it's incongruous when you consider that I'm only 4'3", but I do not like the nickname. Have a cigar.
Well, we're all aboard, Mr. Holmes. Might as well get going, I suppose.
Why not, Stephen?
All right, Captain. We're all here. You may as well get started.
Dr. Watson.
Yes, Mr. Holmes?
Do me a favour, will you? Give us a scratch between the shoulder blades.
Give you what?
A scratch between the shoulder blades. That's it. As soon as we crossed the border, these Scots police started to fight on me. Like a time. Started like Watson in the spanking breeze. I wonder what adventure lies night in store for us. I have a feeling that Professor McElrath may not be too glad to see us. Why did you come here, Holmes? I know who you are and what you do. Why are you so interested in my obscure experiments? For two reasons, Professor McElrath. First, Stephen Singer's a friend of mine, and second, I have an insatiable curiosity, particularly for experiments that require obscurity. I want to know why a student of psychology wishes to isolate 4 malformed humans on a lonely island. All right, stay. Stay to the devil with your boat. You can't leave this island until I get the word. My positive friends. Quiet. Quiet. 4 of you and my employees for the next few days. 2 of you, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, are uninvited guests. Professional measures, as they assured me. And I have no reason to doubt that assurance. Watson, since you're old to be on my island during my experiments, I should like you to study this map and acquaint yourself with the place. Here you'll see are the guest houses, all interconnected by telephones. And I've installed the very latest form of that admirable new device. Now down this path lies the snake house.
Snake? I can't bear snake.
May not be necessary for you to meet them, Miss Pratt. Of course, I do use them in my experiment.
How?
Now, this path over here leads to the haunted watchtower. An interesting edifice, as you will discover. 7 enemies of James VI met a most peculiar death there. You'll find that they continue to meet that death quite regularly.
Look here, Professor. I don't like the sound of this.
Nor do I. You tell us what these experiments are that you keep talking about. With pleasure. I've long known that the malformation of the body of freaks, if you'll forgive the expression, has caused by glandular deficiencies and imbalances. My studies have convinced me that these same glandular defects produce psychological alterations. For instance, you, Miss Patton, weigh 4 times as much as you, Mr. Singer. It will be interesting to see how differently each of you reacts to the same stimuli.
What do you think we are? Jimmy Cake?
You talk of applying different stimuli to these people, Professor McElrath. What kind of stimuli do you intend to apply, may I ask?
Every stimulus that the many resources of this island will enable me to apply. Fear, hunger, desire, envy, hatred. It should prove most illuminating. Most illuminating.
I won't stand for it. We're human beings, not a bunch of animals. That's right. Let's go out.
No, you're right, Belle.
Of course he is. The bloke's farming. Let's get on the boat and go back.
I quite agree with you, sir. You're absolutely inhuman, Professor.
Mind your own business, you meddling fool. I paid these people to come here, and they're good to stay. You and your friend are more than welcome to leave, however.
No, Professor. I shall make myself personally responsible for seeing that these good people return to the mainland tonight.
Indeed. And you must be an extremely strong swimmer, Mr. Holmes.
What do you mean?
The boat left this island an hour ago. It will not return for 5 days. You fools! You grotesque idiots! You're trapped! So put your quarters on of you. Go on. And don't be surprised if I begin my experiments before the night is over.
Well, Holmes, if we are marooned on an island with a madman and 4 members of the circus, I suppose we might as well make the best of it. Yeah. I think I'll turn in. What the devil said? The telephone. Infected instrument. It's just passing fad. Never catch on, you mark my words. Yes, what is it?
Mr. Holmes, are you in your cottage?
Since I'm obviously at the other end of this wire, yes.
Dr. Watson, is he with you?
Yes, why?
I'm worried, Holmes. A few moments ago, I caught the glimpse of a figure standing in the library window. I'm speaking from there now. I thought it might be you or Dr. Watson. But if it isn't, I'm afraid...
And well, you might be, if only of your own conscience.
I'm afraid of the freaks. They're so angry. They might win.
I'd hardly blame them. If you're frightened for your safety, the best thing to do is to let us all leave here at once. Are you sure it's impossible to summon the boat before 5 days are gone?
Well, no, I did lie about that. I could give a signal in the morning by hoisting a flag on the watchtower. Just a moment. There was a stone just against my window. I'll be back, Holmes. Don't hang up.
What's that devil what, Holmes? Sounds distinctly subdued. He's frightened, Watson. Says there's someone lurking outside his window.
Holmes, are you still there?
Yes, Professor? What's wrong?
That figure just started in the shadows. I can see it from where I'm talking. I can't see the face, but it's... Holmes, it's grazing his arm. It's grazing...
I'm afraid it's murder, Watson. Quick, we must get over to the big house as fast as we can. In just a moment, we'll find out just what happened to Professor McElroy. Every man who takes pride in his appearance should know that handsome, healthy-looking hair needs a hygienic scalp. And when you buy a hair tonic, be sure to get your money's worth. Be sure that you enjoy the extra advantages of Kreml hair tonic. This highly specialized hair tonic contains an amazing combination of hair grooming ingredients which is found in no other hair tonic. Kreml keeps dry, stubborn hair neatly in place all day. And it always gives hair such a natural, well-groomed appearance, never sticky or greasy. But men, Kreml does lots more than keep hair looking handsome. Kreml leaves your scalp feeling so alive. At the same time, it removes dandruff flakes, and it simply grates a lubricated dry scalp. And if you, like so many men, have hair so dry it breaks off and falls when you comb it, Kreml actually helps condition the hair in that it makes it feel softer and more pliable. So men, buy a bottle of Kreml at any drug counter. Ask for an application at your barbershop. Let Kreml help keep your scalp hygienic. Your hair always looking its very best. Kreml. Kreml Hair Tonic. Well, Dr. Watson, when you got over to the big house, did you find Professor McElroy was dead?
Yes, Mr. Bell, a quick examination of his crumpled body told me that he was beyond mortal aid. Holmes lost no time in examining that room of death.
This crime isn't very hard to reconstruct, Watson. The dead man was standing here as he spoke his last words to me on this telephone.
Yes, and the window is beside the instrument. The glass in one pane is shattered.
Yes, at a height of approximately 5 feet. And the professor was shot in the temple. He was about 6 feet tall. The line from his wound through the broken pane would indicate that the killer stood out there in the rose garden.
Watch out, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, we heard a shot. Anyone get a theory?
Yes, I'm afraid they did. Professor McElroy has just been murdered.
Murdered? Well, can't say I'm sorry.
Perhaps not, Major, but the fact remains that his killer must be brought to justice. By the way, only 3 of you are here.
Yes, where's Bert Arner, the contortionist? I don't know. He went straight to his cottage when we got back from the big house. That's the last I saw of him.
You know, it's a funny thing. I was only half awake, Mr. Holmes, but I thought I heard 2 shots. About 5 minutes apart.
2 shots? And Bert Army has not appeared? We must go over to his cottage at once.
Oh, poor Bert. Is he hurt bad, Dr. Watson?
No, a flesh wound in the back. He's lucky.
Curious. Observe the revolver lying on the floor beside him. The same caliber as the one used to kill the professor.
I see what Bert's done, Mr. Holmes. He killed the professor to save us all.
That's right, Stephen. And then he tried to kill himself because he knew you'd catch him, Mr. Holmes. That's the way it must have been. Oh, he was a brave man.
An interesting theory.
Yes, it's only a theory. Look at the position of the wound. I'll stake my medical reputation that it couldn't possibly have been self-inflicted. Holmes, this has been an attempt at another murder.
More coffee, Watson?
No, thank you, Holmes. I've drunk a blasted gallon and I'm still sleepy.
I smoked almost the entire supply of tobacco I brought on this trip, and I'm still very wide awake. I asked questions until well after midnight. And what did I learn?
The servants all alibi each other.
Precisely. And that of our party of 4, no one is able to provide an alibi for the other.
So that it must be one of them. As ill-assorted a group of suspects as we ever met.
Yes. It's a strange business. Why the attack on Olney? The professor, yes, that's quite understandable. But why Olney? What singled him out from the others?
Well, I don't know. He's a contortionist. He's perfectly normal looking. He doesn't seem like a freak.
Of course. That's it. Thank you, Watson. You've given me the other end of the thread.
Oh, have I?
Round up the others and bring them to the haunted tower. Dawn is beginning to break, but before we hang that signal for rescue, I shall find the answer to this bizarre problem. Before we fix the signal flag, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to warn you that as soon as we reach land, I shall turn Professor McElraith's murderer over to the authorities.
Let it go, Mr. Holmes. Whoever it was did us all a good turn. Let's forget it.
I'm afraid that murder is not a matter to be forgotten, Major.
Surely you haven't forgotten the attempt on your own life, Mr. Alden.
I feel nearly as good as new, Governor. I think the Major's right. Let's forget. No, Mr. Holden. Not even on your request. Because the whole case centers around you. Oh, May, last night while the murderer was standing outside his window, the professor telephoned me. He wanted to know if both Dr. Watson and I were in our cottage. The implication is obvious.
You mean that the mysterious figure he'd seen resembled Ashenville?
Precisely, Watson. Now, Mr. Singer is nearly 7 feet tall. You, Miss Brackett, if you'll forgive me, could hardly be mistaken for us.
You said it, dear.
Oh, no, for the Major, he told us that he's only 4'3". It must have been you, Miss Alden. But I got shot too.
And you said when you examined me that it was impossible. I could have done it.
Medically impossible for normal man. But
An
I'm
extortionist.
your profession. You're a contortionist. You could easily have shot yourself at such an angle.
What you have to say, Mr. Holmes?
But I,
Why not admit the truth? You're not a contortionist, are you?
No, Mr. Holmes, I'm not. You see, my twin brother got the bit for this here job, but he had another engagement. And since the professor was so particular about the date, my brother told me to come here and we'd split the fee. But how did you know that he wasn't a contortionist, Holmes?
You should remember, Watson. When we first saw him on the boat, he complained of the Scottish fleas and asked you to scratch between his shoulders. A real contortionist would not have needed your assistance. So your medical verdict still holds good, Watson. Army could not have shot himself.
But you ruled the rest of us out, Mr. Holmes.
Not quite, Stephen. The simplest answer is that the mysterious figure that the professor described was disguised.
Disguised?
That theory would be confirmed by the fact that the killer, when he was in the garden, saw the professor standing at the telephone and deliberately attracted his attention by throwing a pebble at the window.
Look here, Mr. Holmes. The sun's well up. I'm tired of all this theory stuff. I'm going to hang the flag on the tower.
Very well, Major.
But Mr. Holmes, don't keep us on edge like this.
Yes, dearie. You said someone disguised themselves. Now, who was it?
Well, surely the answer is apparent.
Not to me, it ain't.
Could you, Miss Brackett, have reduced your excessive weight to appear the size of a normal man? No. Nor could you, Stephen, have decreased your excessive height. But the Major could have made himself by stilts.
And the Major can't possibly guilty.
This is the reveal of the ultimate tactical dragon.
I still don't think we ought to turn him in, Mr. Holmes.
Oh, no. Remember, he did it for us, dearie.
The last time you saw this,
But that's just it, only. I might have been tempted if it were
it just had the single horn coming off down. We decided to not do the horn thing and go a different route.
There'll be a trial, dearie. And if there's a trial, you know how it'll be. They'll make out it was all because he's a freak. It'll be harder for people to accept us just as people.
That's right, Mr. Holmes. It'd be bad for all of us.
I think the Major has thought of that possibility. Look at him up there on the tower.
He's hoisted the flag. Now he's keeping on the edge of the parapet. He's going to... Major! He jumped.
Must be a couple hundred feet down there. He just had a chance.
Oh, the poor Major. He done it for us.
Come on, Phil. I'll take you back to the cottage. I suggest we all return to our quarters in fact. This unhappy tragedy has reached its final conclusion.
What a shocking business. You're right, Dr. Watson. When I came to you in Baker Street, I never dreamed it would end up like this. One thing I'd like to say, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, Stephen?
I want to thank you, not just for solving the case, but because you treated all of us not as freaks, but as ordinary human beings.
Ordinary human dragon.
I know of only one way to treat people, Stephen, and that is as each person deserves to be treated. If Professor McElraith had only realized that truth, he would not have paid with his life.
Now, Dr. Watson, you have my undivided attention. How about the adventure of the horseless carriage?
It all began one morning when Holmes and I were breakfasting in our rooms in Baker Street. Holmes was opening his nails.
If you can tear yourself away from the kitchen bacon for a moment, Watson, I'd like to read you a letter.
Sir Harry Holmes, burdening your mind with problems of breakfast. This service is just told us 100 times, but go ahead.
My dear Mr. Holmes, my friend Mr. Alexander Holder, the banking firm of Holder and Stevenson of Threadneedle Street, Informs me that you recently were of great assistance to him in a highly confidential matter. I'm therefore taking the liberty of calling upon you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Tuesday, in the hope of obtaining your assistance and advice. Yours faithfully, Austin Grierson.
I've heard or read about that name somewhere lately. That's 14.
But then you know. Take a look at his letter and see if you can form any conclusion from it. While I have a glance at what our reference book can talk on, Mr. Grierson.
Mailed yesterday. Postmarked Southampton. Grierson is presumably well-to-do. The newspaper is of expensive quality.
Capital, Watson. What else?
Nothing else, actually.
My dear Watson, nothing else but you observe, you mean. Mr. Grierson has evidently written under the stress of strong emotion. Notice how the pen nib has dug into the paper at several points. He is evidently a man who is used to having his own way. The manner in which he appoints the hour at which he will call upon us today indicates that. He is obviously mechanically minded, and despite his wealth, still interests himself in machinery.
Oh, now, Holmes, how can you tell that?
There are faint traces of 2 fingerprints of the writer's left hand, where he held a paper with fingers that were a trifle oily. And your nostrils should enable you to identify the very faint odor of machine oil.
Oh, not my nostrils.
The light is better over here near the window. Let's see what our reference book says.
Well?
Austin Grierson, Chairman, Board of Directors, Southampton Machine Works, Patent Deals, Grierson's internal combustion engines and motor.
That's where I saw his name in a newspaper account concerning a race of some of these idiotic new horseless carriages.
Quite so. And furthermore, Watson, I can tell you that Mr. Grierson is fond of animals, and especially a large Airedale.
Holmes, I absolutely refuse to believe that you can deduce that from the fellow's letter.
I never said I could. But it's precisely 10 o'clock, and Mr. Grierson, complete with Airedale, has just been ushered in our front door by Mrs. Hudson.
Amazing deduction, I must say. You saw it out the plastic window.
Come in.
Saw it out the blasted window.
Good morning, Mr. Grierson. Good morning, gentlemen. I'm Sherlock Holmes.
What a funny
My colleague, Dr. Watson.
bit of banter.
Dr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, I'm glad to meet you. Quiet, James, quiet there. This is my colleague, and a very good guardian, too. Sit down, Mr. Grierson, and tell me why you feel the need of a watchdog. The newness of this collar indeed would indicate that you've only recently acquired it. Quite right, Mr. Holmes. Well, I'll get to the point at once. I made all my money in machinery. I don't mind saying it, I'm a pretty wealthy man. During the past 3 years, I've devoted all my time and most of my fortune to developing the coming wonder of the world, sir, the motor car.
Wonder of the world, eh? Ever afraid for horse, Mr. Grierson? Never.
Sounds like my nephew Edward, Dr. Watson. He shares your opinion. But I assure you, sir, that if my new motor car can only win the forthcoming endurance test, which you may have read, I shall have no difficulty in setting a car a week.
62 cars a year?
Nevertheless, it is the case, Dr. Watson. In fact, Mr. Holmes, it is the very excellence of my prospects that has brought me to you. How's that, Mr. Grierson? I have just recently completed and been testing the first model of my new car. 2 cylinders instead of the old-fashioned 1. Tremendous power, Mr. Holmes. The endurance test is to be held tomorrow over the course from Southampton to Alton and back. A distance of over 40 miles.
40 miles?
And I feel certain that my new car will win. And as you can easily imagine, sir, the ensuing publicity will be invaluable. In fact, Mr. Holmes, I have no hesitation in saying that I must win. I see. At least one of the backers of the other 3 cars that entered in this contest feels the same way. In the last 2 weeks, there have been one very definite attempt to damage my new car, and yesterday a second attempt almost resulted in my death.
Evidently, some people do take these horseless carriages seriously.
Yes, Dr. Watson. Unlike you and my nephew Edward, who feels that I'm anticipating the family fortunes of a mad scheme, some people do. Only the fortunate fact that I was driving slowly at the moment saved me from death when this testing apparatus broke. It could not have been an accident, Mr. Grierson. Did the mechanism show definite signs of being tampered with? Beyond any doubt, Mr. Holmes. There were file marks on the steering wheel. And you are certain that these attempts are being made by outside sources, not by members of your own family or persons associated with your venture? My family and fellow workers are above suspicion, Mr. Holmes. So I hope that you will undertake to guard both the car and myself during the next 24 hours until the race is over. Under one condition, Mr. Grierson, maybe, sir. I'm always anxious to experience a new sensation. My condition is that you take Dr. Watson and myself for a drive in your racer as soon as we can get to Southampton. What? Done, Mr. Holmes.
Not I. You'll never get me to risk my life in one of those wretched things.
The old horseless carriage.
fighting that farmer. Hey, look out there! Whoa, man, whoa, steady, girl. Cut down your stinking motor car.
Useful vehicle. If you have to slow down almost to a standstill every time you see a horse.
Don't worry, Doctor. The horses get used to it.
How if they show horse sense? You like that, Holmes?
Appalling, my dear Watson. Well, gentlemen, here we are, safely home again. Most interesting experience, Mr. Desmond.
Oh, phew. I feel better when I washed off some of this dust.
Got to the house in a moment, Dr. Watson. I'm so sorry there's no place to wash up down here in the barn. I've been keeping the car here for the past couple of weeks instead of down at the machine works. At least this old barn is near a house. I wonder where that fellow Simmons can be.
Yeah, now get away from that car, you two. If you don't, your scarf will be bashed in with his
Just a moment, my good man. There's no need for you to be...
I know who you are. You're someone who doesn't mean you are.
Simmons, hold on. These gentlemen are friends of mine. This is Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. This is Joe Simmons. Gentlemen.
Simmons.
It's him. It's Joe Simmons calling it.
Best motor car mechanic in the world.
You'll understand my suspicions, Mr. Grayson, when I tell you that Mr. Charles saw some bloke hanging about here while you were up in London.
What, did you catch him?
No, I thought it, sir. I didn't say. We chased him, but the bloody got away. Hello, Uncle Austin. How did you run?
Perfectly, Charles. Perfectly. You and Joe have a tune to a hair. Gentlemen, my nephew Charles Gresson, who helped me design my car. Charles, Mr. Holmes.
Oh, it's him. It's Charles Resin.
She's a beauty, isn't she, gentlemen? Come, let's go up to the house for some tea. Simmons, you will be here on guard tonight?
You bet I will, Mr. Grayson.
And keep Jeff with you. Stay here, Jeff, on the guard. It was rotten luck, that fellow getting away, Uncle. I was gaining on him till I climbed the fence near the road, and then I gave my ankle a twist that ended all hope of catching him. Oh, too bad, Charles. Tell me, Mr. Griffin.
Oh, too bad.
Anyone of you any suspicions that might indicate which one of your competitors is
Oh,
behind
no,
these
too
attempts?
slow.
No, not a thing. I wish we had, Mr. Holmes. Have you taken any precautions? We've rigged an alarm bell from the barn to the house. Simmons has only to touch a lever, and the gong will ring in the main hall. What of Simmons himself? Take my life on Joe's honesty. He's been with me 20 years.
Now that I've washed the dust off the island, I'm glad to see that you gentlemen have something that will do the job internally.
Yes, you are, Doctor.
Thank you.
Hello, Uncle Austin.
Good evening.
Oh, Helen, my dear. This is Mr.
Oh, it's Helen
Holmes,
for
Dr.
sure.
Watson. My ward, Miss Helen Lacey, and her fiancé, my other nephew, Edward Gresson.
Oh, it's Edward.
I'm glad to see you gentlemen survived your ride in my uncle's infernal contrivance.
To my surprise, we did. I gather that you agree with my low opinions of the Foster's carry.
I've told my uncle often enough that I regard it in the same light as the South Sea bubble.
Now, Edward, don't get started on that.
Definitely was Edward.
Just you wait until we won the race and are turning out cars by the dozen, Edward, and you'll find yourself with plenty of legal work on your hands. Taking care of damage to his complex. By the way, I ran across a rather odd thing today in a letter of inquiry from America. Did you know that in all countries except England, people drive on the wrong side of the road?
You mean to say that in other countries they don't keep to the left?
Absolutely not. They drive on the right. Barbaric. Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson are going to be staying with us, Helen, and just... The alarm. Oh, Scott. Simmons, the car. There's something happening. Simmons! Let us in. You all right? I'm all right. Why did you ring the alarm? Well, look at that, Mr. Holmes. Jeff! Why? The dog. He's dead. Of all the rotten things. And from the look of the limbs, I have no doubt he was poisoned.
No question of it, Holmes.
The scoundrel must have been frightened off by the alarm bell before he could take us. What do you think, Mr. Holmes?
Getting slippery here.
Dr. Watson and I will stand guard over the car until race time tomorrow. I wouldn't like to see Jeff's fate visited upon a human being. Grierson. You've done your job, Mr. Holmes. Now I'll do mine. Careful of that curve near Petersfield, Uncle.
Be careful, Uncle.
Good luck. Come
Careful,
back
Uncle.
on one feet. On number 4. Go.
Go!
What's the time, Helen?
1 hour and 46 minutes.
With what the first car should be finishing soon from this, you're overlooking the time necessary for changing tires, Mr. Holmes. After all, covering better than 40 miles at top speed, they have to make 2 or 3 changes.
Yes, I never heard of having to change a horse's shoes 2 or 3 times in 40 miles, did you?
Oh, quiet, Watson. The day will come, Dr. Watson, when you will see tires that will go as much as 500 miles without requiring replacement.
Don't fright him, Dr. Watson. He has the same illusions as my uncle, the Duke of the Incredible Machine.
Hey, come on!
What color is the car? What can you see?
Doctor, I can't think you're out of breath. Red? Did you run? By Julius, what is this?
We won!
I told you we'd win. Oh, come on. Let's be the first to congratulate Uncle. Well, Holmes, our little job is finished now.
I hope so, Watson. I hope so.
The way Mr. Grierson took the bridge outside Alton, my heart was in my mouth. He was a great race.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Joe.
Joe.
Where's Mr. Grierson, Charles? Oh, I left him down in the barn. He's crooning over the car like a mother.
You don't think, Mr. Holmes, that the twisters who've been causing this trouble will try any tricks now that the race is over, do you, sir?
I hardly think anyone will make any attempts on the car.
Oh, here's a telegram to you, Mr. Holmes. It's just arrived.
Thank you.
Is Uncle Austin still down at the barn? Just passed by there. Oh, I heard a motor running.
Uncle's promised to let me drive the next race.
I'm glad it's you and not Edward who likes motors.
I say, Holmes, where are you going?
Down to the barn.
You don't think that there's anything wrong, do you?
I told you, Watson, I was no longer concerned about the car. Give me a hand with this door, Watson. Seems to stop. Here, let me get my shoulder again. Now. Push. Back, Watson, back. What is it, Holmes? What's wrong? What's the matter? Don't worry, man. That motor's still running. Don't you pretend to come from an offside. Edward, take Helen back to the house.
No, Holmes,
All right, I'll help you. There you go, Dr. Watson. If you go in, they'll be serious in this right now. That's better. Take care of me, Watson.
It's no use going on with that artificial respiration, Charles. I'm afraid there's nothing further that we can do for your uncle.
Will you get in touch with the police, Charles? I'll send someone to town right away.
Or best get down to the factory and tell them what's happened. There'll be no party over the victory tonight.
There's another devilish thing that you can charge up to the motor car homes. Pearson evidently stayed in the closed barn with a motor running. Was overcome by the deadly fumes, fell, and died of suffocation.
And how do you account for that deep wound at the back of his head?
Well, obviously, when he fell, he struck his head against the metal bonnet of the car. You saw the blood on the edge of the bonnet, didn't you?
Quite so. And I also noticed that Grierson's face is extremely pale. Did you notice that, Watson?
Yes, of course. What of it?
Simply the carbon monoxide victims invariably show a cherry red discoloration of the face.
What do you mean, Holmes?
This is no accident, Watson. This is murder.
Just a moment, we will join Sherlock Holmes as he endeavors to solve the mysterious death of Austin Grierson. Every man who takes pride in his appearance should know that handsome, healthy-looking hair needs a hygienic scalp. That's why when you buy a hair tonic, be sure to get your money's worth. Don't just settle for any hairdressing when you can enjoy the extra advantages of Kreml hair tonic. This highly specialized hair tonic contains an amazing combination of hair grooming ingredients which is found in no other hair tonic. Kreml keeps dry, stubborn hair neatly in place all day and always gives hair such a natural, well-groomed appearance, never sticky or greasy. But men, Kreml does lots more than keep hair looking handsome. Kreml leaves your scalp feeling so alive. At the same time, it removes dandruff flakes. It's simply great to lubricate a dry scalp. And if your hair is so dry it breaks and falls when you comb it, Kreml actually helps condition the hair, in that it makes it feel softer, more pliable. So men, buy a bottle of Kreml at any drug counter. Ask for an application at your barbershop. Let Kreml help keep your scalp hygienic. Your hair always looking its very best. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. Now, Dr. Watson, what happened after Sherlock Holmes discovered Mr. Grierson had not died accidentally, but had been murdered?
Well, I was still the only one to whom Holmes had revealed the shocking discovery, and he cautioned me to say nothing of it. As we walked back to the house a few minutes later, I suggested a theory.
And on what do you base your suspicions of Edward, Watson?
Quite obvious. Grierson told us last night that his two nephews would inherit equally. And Edward has made no secret of the fact that he felt his uncle was throwing away the family fortune in this wild venture. Besides, he had the opportunity. What do you think, Holmes?
I think, Watson, that the libel laws being what they are, and Edward being a lawyer, you'd better not air your opinion where he can hear you.
Well?
Ah, Edward. How is Helen?
She's resting upstairs, Mr. Holmes. One of the maids is staying with her. This horrible affair has shaken her badly.
Of course.
I've sent Simmons to town with a message for the police, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Charles.
I'm afraid it'll be the better part of an hour before we can expect them.
I wonder, Watson, if you'd be good enough to take care of this little matter that I've noted down on this slip of paper.
Huh? Oh, right. I'll see to it at once, Holmes.
Gentlemen, I gathered from what your uncle said last night that you will now be the joint owners of the Southampton Machine Works and of his motor car patents.
Yes.
Do you intend to carry on as before?
Of course not, Mr. Holmes. My uncle knew how I felt about all this expensive foolishness. I've agreed to buy out Edward's share, and he's going out to London to carry on his legal career. Well, if you don't need me for anything further, Mr. Holmes, I think I'll go upstairs and see how Helen is doing.
Of course, Edward. I hope you'll find her bearing up under the shock.
Thank you.
Charles, there are one or two minor points that I'd like to get clear in my own mind before the police arrive.
Anything I can tell you, Mr. Holmes, I'll be glad to.
Now, Charles, when we left you and your uncle, he was about to have you check some question regarding the sparking plugs in the motor. Is that right?
Quite, Mr. Holmes. I opened the bonnet and removed the sparking plugs for Uncle's inspection. Meanwhile, he refilled the petrol tank.
So that there would be sufficient petrol to allow him to test the motor, I assume.
That's right. The tank was almost empty after the race.
Precisely. You didn't help him refill the tank then, did you?
No, I was busy removing the sparking plugs.
And when you were finished?
Uncle told me not to wait for him, that he wanted to run the engine for a few minutes and that I should join you others up here.
And you came straight from the barn to the room in which we all were?
Why, yes.
You stopped nowhere on the way?
Nowhere, Mr. Holmes.
Well, that all seems simple enough.
You'd like to clear that little matter, Holmes?
Is everything satisfactory?
Quite.
Excellent. If you and Charles will excuse me, Watson, I'll be back in a few minutes.
Certainly, Mr. Holmes.
By the way, Charles, Dr. Watson and I will be returning from London as soon as the police have been here.
Very well. I suppose, Dr. Watson, that this tragic accident confirms your distaste for the motor car.
Yes, Charles. Or rather, it would if Holmes hadn't convinced me this wasn't an accident.
What do you mean?
Sorry, I couldn't. I thought Holmes had told you that...
Tell me what?
Nothing.
I insist on knowing what you're saying. Are you implying that my uncle's death was not accidental?
Of course, it occurred to me. But Holmes pointed out that in the case of monoxide poisoning, the face and lips would be congested, and your uncle's face was pale. Holmes seemed to think that...
I'll see for myself what Holmes thinks. I won't stand for any insinuations.
Holmes seemed to think that your uncle was... Oh, God.
Watson, did he take the bait?
Followed in hook, line, and sinker.
But where, Watson? You evidently carried out my instructions with no perfection.
I think I convinced him that I left the cat out of the bag quite accidentally. He said he was going off to have it out with you at once.
He must have changed his mind rather suddenly, judging from the way he hurried down the hall and tiptoed out of the front door. To prove that Austin Grierson was murdered, Watson, would be a matter of utmost simplicity. But my certainty that it was Charles who murdered him rests upon so slender a bit of evidence that I'm sure no jury in the world would convict him. It was necessary to make Charles betray himself, and he fell into our trap. His very flight is a confession of guilt. Ah, listen.
That's why you told me to remove those things, parking lots, you call, from the car.
Right. So that Charles would be forced to make his escape on one of the horses once he discovered that the car would not start.
Oh, undoubtedly you've taken the fastest horse. How on earth are we going to catch up with him?
In the motor car, of course.
Motor car, but Simmons isn't here. Who on earth's going to drive the infernal pig?
I observed Mr. Grierson's actions rather closely yesterday. I feel quite certain that I am competent to operate the machine. Come on, Watson. Show me where you get those sparking plugs. Good shot, Watson. You killed me, you devil. Take a look at it, Watson.
Let him through the shoulder. Painful, but not fatal.
Blast you, Holmes. You had the devil's own eye. I can assure you it wasn't luck that gave you away and revealed your full scheme. You thought that once your uncle was out of the way and the truth had fought out your brother's interest, you would have sole control of a business that was through a gold mine. You can't prove it.
Gold mine? Why, Edward told me that Mr. Grierson had such fortune into his experiments.
So he had. But what Edward did not know, but Charles had evidently learned, was that the banking firm of Holder and Stevenson had offered Mr. Grierson £100,000 for his patents. The offer was dependent upon his winning the race. The telegram I received yesterday from Holder and Stevenson was an answer to my inquiry. You devil.
Heavens and Holmes, all those previous attempts at sabotage.
Those were designed to make us think that some competitor was responsible. All meant to point away from the real murderer.
The dark, right point in the dark.
Another attempt to lead us off the track by making us believe strangers were responsible.
But Holmes, what was it that made you realize that it was Charles who killed his uncle?
As I've often told you, Watson, you see, but you do not observe. You may remember that when we returned from our drive, Mr. Austin Grierson, when you wanted to wash off the dust, told you that there was no place in the barn where you could do so.
What on earth is that going to do with it?
When this fellow here had removed the sparking plugs after the race at Hunt's request, his hands must have been covered with dirt and grease. But when he joined us at the house, his hands were quite clean. He told me when I questioned him that he had not stopped anywhere on the way. Obviously, it must have been he that filled the petrol tank so that the engine would keep running after he killed his uncle. Nothing but petrol would have washed off the oil and dirt from his hands.
Good heavens, Holmes, and that was a slender clue which told you that he killed Grierson.
So slender a clue, Watson, that it was only your excellent performance that betrayed this fellow into the flight that will convict him.
Thank you very much. You did what you told me, Holmes.
If the glove don't fit, you must acquit.
Now, Dr. Watson, how about the adventure of the genuine Guarnerian?
Well, the British ambassador to France, Sir Hubert Ashley, invited Holmes and myself to a reception at the embassy in Paris in order to thank us both, successfully concluding the rather delicate affair of Mr. Edwards. The ballroom was a blaze of light, the guests dancing. By Jove, Holmes, have you ever seen anyone more attractive than our host's wife? I must say that Lady Ashley is really the finest type of English beauty.
Sometimes, Watson, I envy the directness of your mind.
What do you mean?
When you look at a beautiful woman, you see only beauty.
What on earth would you expect me to see?
In the case of Lady Ashley, my dear fellow, I notice her elderly husband, her many gallant admirers, and I think, what a motive for murder.
Oh, really, Holmes?
Mr. Holmes, I trust our guest of honor is enjoying himself.
Very much indeed, Lady Ashley.
Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, may I introduce a very dear friend, Monsieur Jacques Medical, who has known me 4 years and I can't remember.
How are you doing? Yes, I think I can claim to be Lady Ashley's most devoted cavalier, having first made her acquaintance when she was just over 2 hours old. She wept bitterly the moment she saw me.
But I've been trying to make up to him for it ever since.
During the time we're in Paris, Monsieur Marigot, I've been promising myself the pleasure of a visit to your famous music shop. I should be honest with you, Holmes. I've heard, of course, that you played the violin merely as the various amateurs. Incidentally, I'm looking forward eagerly to hearing Monsieur Drinko play this evening, Lady Ashley. I was unfortunately out of London during the only recital he gave this season.
He's a great artist. He comes from one of those little countries down the right-hand corner of the map, doesn't he? I've always heard the sort of little powder.
You will have an opportunity to judge at once, Watson. Our host is approaching with the gentleman in question in tow.
There you are.
Herr Drinko has been asking to meet you. Herr Drinko, Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson. How do you do?
Hubert, you'll excuse me. I must see our other guests. Until later, Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson.
Oh, yes, indeed, of course. Dr. Watson and I are looking forward to hearing you play, Mr. Drinko. I always enjoy an appreciative audience. Tell me, Mr. Holmes, might I speak to you alone for a moment? Come along, Merriver. What must be your opinion on that 83 champagne?
Yes, it's outfit.
Well, Mr. Drinko, I said alone, Mr. Holmes. I have no secrets from Dr. Watson. Very well, then. It so happens that
Very
I
well,
find
then.
myself in a slight predicament. I thought that with all your experience, you might advise me. As a social favor, Mr. Drinko? Gladly. If, of course, you would like to come to tea at my hotel tomorrow and bring your violin to entertain my guests, I beg your pardon. Oh. I understand, Mr. Holmes. We professionals must each respect the other's métier, must we not? It would be preferable.
So I told you what sort of fellow you were.
Nevertheless, Mr. Holmes, I still ask for your advice, and I will expect to pay the customary fee. You see, I find myself a trifle involved. Only a harmless flirtation, of course, but I did write one or two indiscreet letters to one of the girls at Maxims. Now the greedy little thing threatens blackmail. Hardly an unusual situation, Mr. Drinko. For myself, for my reputation, I do not care, you understand. An artist is an artist. But there is my wife at home. I must think of her, naturally.
You're thinking about travel later, aren't you, Oma?
So you can see that there might be unpleasant results if Fufu were to Fufu of Maxims.
You know her. We're not unacquainted with the young person, Holmes.
From my rather brief acquaintance with her, I think the matter may be settled rather simply. Well, I should be happy if you will handle the affair.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Monsieur Drinko, we're all very happy to welcome here this evening, will now give us the pleasure of his incomparable music.
You are gentlemen. Mademoiselle Fufu's dressing room right here. Oh, Papa.
I say, Holmes, did you notice that girl we just passed? The one wearing just those little things with you?
Right. I've also noticed, Watson, that backstage at Maxim seems to be one place where you not only see, but also observe very closely.
Oh, hello, Monsieur Holmes.
Good evening.
I had not expected to see you and that cute little Dr. Watson again so soon. But perhaps this time it is pleasure, huh? Not business?
Mademoiselle Fufu, it was only because I thought the gentleman we have agreed to refer to as Mr. Edwards was at least as culpable as you that I persuaded the French police not to prosecute you in that matter of his mother's jewels.
No, but Monsieur Holmes, that doesn't matter. We have settled it, have we not?
The charge is still pending, mademoiselle, and that a word from me could be followed up.
Why should you?
I also happen to know that the Marsovian embassy is most curious regarding the attraction which brings Prince Danilo so frequently to Paris. That also does not concern me at the moment. Assuming, of course, that you will return at once all the letters that were written to you by Monsieur Drinko, and that you cease from molesting him anymore.
Oh, je comprends très bien, I see. Well, Monsieur Holmes, since you have put it so convincingly, I am rather tired of listening to a soundfully played violin. Monsieur Drinko may have his letters back. Here they are.
Thank you, mademoiselle. I knew you were a sensible girl. Good night.
Si jamais vous bientôt, ce sera trop tôt, je l'assure.
And now what?
And now for a good night's rest. And in the morning we can report to Mr. Drinko the satisfactory solution of what was perhaps our simplest
I
problem.
hope you charge him a stiff fee, Holmes. I still say that fellow's a bounder.
number of his room. Quick, send a message to the police. Oh, Monsieur Holmes. Mr. Marigold, what's the matter? Drinko, we were on our way up to see him. He killed himself. What? Good heavens. Come, Marigold, take us up to his room.
Couldn't handle it. It was a shame. It was all a shame.
The man's been dead for more than half an hour, Holmes. Closer to an hour, isn't it?
I see. Marigold, would you please ask that chap we passed, the one who was painting the hall, to step in here for a moment? But of course. Curious. I wonder what could have been Drinko's motive in committing suicide.
Here is a phantom, Monsieur Holmes.
Ah, yes. Tell me, have you been working there all morning?
Huh? Oui, monsieur. Ever since 8 o'clock.
For over 2 hours, in other words. And were you working constantly in sight of this door?
Absolutely, monsieur. I heard the gentleman in here practicing the violin for a while, but he stopped almost an hour ago. That was the time of death, just about what I thought, Holmes.
And you saw no one enter or leave this room during the entire time?
No. Oh, except 5 minutes ago, this gentleman went into the room. A few seconds later, came running out, calling for the police.
Thank you. Your statement has been very clear. You may go now, but better not leave the hotel. No doubt the police will want to question you.
Well, yeah.
I have never had such a shock in my life, Mr. Holmes. I came up to deliver a new violin that Drinko had ordered. And when I opened the door and saw him lying there with his face all twisted
Oh,
up.
goodness.
Yes. Common appearance of cyanide poisoning. Not very pretty, I'll admit. You'll note the characteristic odor of bitter almonds, Watson.
Yes, indeed, and here's the empty bottle.
Quite. The poison label on it removes any possibility of accident.
Nobody could possibly have got in or out through the window. The sheer drop of 4 stories.
Please, look, Mr. Holmes. This torn piece of paper. I found it here on the desk. It's a suicide note. Evidently written under the stress of considerable emotion, to judge from the writing. It is intolerable. I utterly refuse to endure it any longer. Signed, Mikhail Drinko. It's his handwriting, Mr. Holmes. I swear to it. Yes. Unquestionably the perfect setting for suicide.
No doubt about it. Ah, well, Monsieur Holmes, a pleasure to meet you again, even under such unfortunate circumstances.
How are you, Inspector Bernard?
Nice to see you again, my dear fellow.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Watson and I have been carrying on for you until your arrival.
Oh, thank you. And may I pick your brains to ask what you have learned?
Marigold here discovered the body only a few minutes ago when he arrived to deliver a violin Drinko had ordered. The painter you'll find out in the hall has had the room under observation all morning and will assure you that no one else entered or left it.
The fellow stopped practicing about an hour before. Sets the time of death pretty accurately. Here's his suicide note, Inspector. I'm afraid we're presenting you with rather an open and shut case.
Oh, well, Dr. Watson, a hard-working officer like myself welcomes the absence of any mystery.
And here's the violin that Drinko was practicing on.
Let me see it, Watson. Odd. Very odd indeed.
You mean odd that Drinko should be practicing the violin until just before it hit himself?
No, Inspector. That fact by itself would merely be singular. But listen to the violin on which he was practicing.
Oh, the tune.
I confess, Mr. Holmes, that I find no mystery in a man playing the violin just before he kills himself.
Perhaps, Inspector, you may then be able to explain why a world-famous violinist like Drinko should do his practicing on a violin that is most unmistakably out of tune.
How should I know what the man would do just before he commits suicide?
Suicide? This isn't suicide, Inspector. This is
Murder.
murder.
Man, once you get bald, there's nothing you can do about it. Science tells us it's impossible to grow hair on bald heads. But you can make the most of the hair you've got. And let me tell you, there's nothing better than Kreml hair tonic to do it. In the first place, Kreml does a marvelous job of hair grooming. It keeps every lock neatly in place, yet never looks greasy or sticky. Kreml contains very special hair grooming ingredients, the like of which have never been duplicated in any other hair tonic. But Kreml does lots more than just keep hair in place. A massage with Kreml helps stimulate circulation of the blood in the surface of the scalp. Your scalp feels so clean, so alive, so invigorated.
Remember, Kreml actually helps condition the hair, in that it leaves it feeling so much softer and more pliable. It also has a grand lubricating effect on a dry scalp. So remember, men, make the most of the hair you've got. Use Kreml Hair Tonic daily. Kreml. Kreml Hair Tonic. Now, Dr. Watson, what happened in that hotel room when Sherlock Holmes told Inspector Bernard that Drinko, the violinist, had been murdered and had not committed suicide?
Well, naturally, Inspector Bernard was rather surprised. As a matter of fact, it seemed to me he was a bit fussy about it.
But, Monsieur Holmes, you cannot find the face of all the evidence we see before us. The bottle of poison, clearly labeled, the suicide note, unquestionably in his own handwriting. Dr. Watson's medical evidence that the man had been dead at least an hour. And the final confirmation of the man painting in the hall who tells us that no one entered or left this room until a few minutes ago. And against all this, Mr. Holmes, what have you to offer? A violin that is out of tune.
Nevertheless, Inspector, it is the crux of the entire case.
But Holmes, how can you tell what a fellow like Drinko would have done?
I can assure you, Watson, that he would have done almost anything in the world except practice on this violin. No, Inspector, this was murder. I'll stake my reputation on it.
It is only your repetition, Monsieur Holmes, that makes me hesitate at all.
Give me 24 hours in which to establish how this murder was done and who did it.
Since it is you who asked, Monsieur Holmes.
Very well. Thank you. Come, Watson. We have some busy hours ahead of us. Good day, gentlemen.
Where are we off to now, Dr. Harry Holmes?
British Embassy.
The embassy? Well, why not?
You evidently failed to notice during last night's reception that Lady Ashley left us very abruptly the moment Drinko joined our party. Her manner to him verged on rudeness, and that's so unlike Lady Ashley that I feel that an inquiry in that quarter may bear interesting fruit. May I ask, Mr. Holmes, the purpose behind this unexpected visit? In just a moment, Sir Hubert. I'd like to have Lady Ashley present
Yes,
when I...
Hubert? Why, may said you want to see. Why, Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson. I didn't know you were here.
I'm afraid our visit concerns a professional matter, Lady Ashley. You see, Dr. Watson and I have just come from the room of the late Monsieur Drinko.
The late Monsieur Drinko. I don't understand.
Drinko has been murdered, Lady Ashley. Quick, Watson, catch her.
Nothing but a faint. You just ring for your wife's maid, Sir Hubert.
Yes, I can tell you.
I must say, Holmes, you misread the news rather brutally. She took it very hard.
Nonsense, Watson. What caused her to faint was relief. That was my object. I had to find out what her reaction would be. Yes. You and Mary helped Lady Ashley up to her room. Put her to bed.
Just keep her quiet, please. A cup of hot tea will do her no harm until when she comes round.
And now, gentlemen, if you'll excuse me. I'm sorry, Sir Hubert, but I must ask you to remain here with us for a few moments. I don't understand that. Sir Hubert, Lady Ashley's reaction to the news of Drinko's death was a good deal more pronounced than might be expected in the circumstances. I haven't the faintest idea what you're trying to insinuate. I insinuate nothing. I merely state facts. Would you prefer that I question her, or will you tell me what lies behind all this? Very well, Mr. Hill. But I should write this. Spare my one.
One moment. got an email from somebody that purchased a white grip pack cross. White grip pack cross. Or was it gray? I think it was gray. Gray grip pack cross. Which I find is unique. That's the first gray that we've sold. I actually have another one in pending order as soon as payment goes through. So that'll be 2 grip packs that we sold this weekend. This one is the cross that is going out to Tennessee, and then we've got this pending one. It doesn't show me where it's going until it's purchased. So waiting on that to go through. We're gonna give a little what up to Wesley. Amazon makes me respond when they write back, so like I have to be the last correspondence for whatever reason. But I'm gonna send that email out to Wesley. This still needs to have some time to cure. I don't really like the glossiness of it, but what are you gonna do? You know, how are you gonna take the glossiness of that dragon out? Besides like rubbing some dirt on it, you know? It's just that it gets wet and it's so doggone smooth that it ends up shiny. So there's so many spikes and scales and angles and crevices that you'd be like, all right, well, can you put like a wire polishing wheel on it, like a brush, and like brush it to a flat finish? I'm sure it's possible. But you're going to end up with really high wear areas. It's essentially going to wear it off almost everywhere on the outside. Almost like a brand new broom, you know what I'm saying? Like a bristle brush. I've got a couple like cleaning bristle brushes around. I'll source one of them and like clean it up and let it dry, and we'll see if we can't. I mean, you just think about what I've just said there. You know, you're thinking about brushing it with a bristle brush to help take the shine off of it. That's going to take forever. Anyway, we will continue to work on the Tactical Dragon to make it a product that's worthy of the price point that it's got to be at, which the price point for the Tactical Dragon at this moment is going to be at $199.95. $200 for the Tactical Dragon. If you want the Tactodactyl wings, they're going to be $399, $400 for the Tactodactyl wings.
My only interest is in any light that she might be able to shed on the matter. Sylvia is a very young and very beautiful woman. Before we were married, she had, well, how shall I put it, fallen under the spell of this man, Brinker. Well, I've asked her no questions, but I know that he continued to have some strange hold over her. I had the impression that she hated seeing him and that he was forcing his presence on her on those occasions when he came as a guest in my house.
I still don't believe anyone killed the fellow, but if someone did, it sounds like a good riddance.
Unfortunately, Watson, we are not concerned with the equities of the matter, but with its solution. Thank you, Sir Hubert. You've been extremely helpful. All justice must be done, Mr. Holmes. But if ever I wished that your great powers might fail, it is now. I have no hesitation whatsoever in saying that I'm infinitely grateful for the murder of that swine Drinker.
Mr. Holmes, will you join me in a cup of tea?
No tea, thanks. I'm I'm rather trusting to the inspiration of music to assist me in resolving some of the more puzzling features of this case.
Well, at least you can't complain of a scarcity of suspect. First of all, Sir Hubert, for obvious reasons. Not the Lady Ashton. Wait, Cutler.
What's the matter? Tea too hot?
No, but have you thought of the possibility that Frou might have killed Drinko? After all, she might have been madly in love with
The
him.
possibility had occurred to me, but I discarded it.
Oh, discarded it. Hey, Joe, look at this glass here on the table. It's possibly vibrating from that high note.
A not uncommon phenomenon. As you must know, certain objects vibrate in harmony with certain notes. Watson, get your coat. We promised to pay a visit to Marigold's shop. I think this would be an ideal time to discharge that obligation.
Dingy little place, I must say. Founded 1821, eh? As though they hadn't washed the windows since.
But full of priceless treasures. As Marlowe said, infinite riches in a little room.
I say, where's Marigold? I don't like the looks of that customer over there. The one with that bushy black beard and theatrical cloak. He looks like one of those bomb-throwing fellows. What do you call them? Nihilist.
You must remember, Watson, that music appeals to oddly assorted people.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Moriarty, after all, knows no fear in his interpretation of certain of the dark hues.
Where is he, Holmes and Dr. Watson? Or is this other gentleman waiting?
No. I mean, look for it.
It's no wonder the fame of your shop is worldwide, Mr. Marigold. I see you have some remarkable instruments.
You say about you the fruits of a lifetime of devotion to the violin. I must confess, Mr. Holmes, that it pains me every time I sell one of my treasures.
I can well believe it.
And have you made any further progress to the solution of Drenko's death?
I feel safe in saying that my investigation has gleaned a few pertinent facts.
Would it be indiscreet for me to ask what they are?
Not at all. You yourself were present when I made the curious discovery regarding Drenko's violin being out of tune. And only a short time ago, while I happened to be playing my violin, Dr. Watson made a remark which threw further light on the case. Didn't you, Watson?
Oh, this is supposed to...
I don't know what kind of a violin you possess, Mr. Holmes, but I'm sure you will appreciate one magnificent example that I'd like you to try. A Guarnerius, the equal of any Strad I've ever seen.
I am afraid it would be far beyond the reach of my purse.
But you at least owe yourself the pleasure, the great experience of playing it. Here it is. Isn't it beautiful?
Exquisite. If the tone's as mellow as that varnish...
But of course. Why don't you take it into my private office and try it? No one will disturb you here.
Thank you. I've never had the good fortune to test a Guarnerius.
Dr. Watson, when Mr. Holmes is amusing himself, perhaps you'd be interested in some of these boards?
Those? Oh, yes, it's wholesale thingamajigs, don't they?
There's more to it than that. There is only one family in all Italy, Dr. Watson, that possesses the secret of making a ball like this one.
Oh, it's all very fascinating, Mr. Marlowe, but Holmes must have made up his mind if he likes that fiddle by now. I know he wants to ask you some questions, and I felt that it... Good heavens, what? He's lying on the floor. You have to face it. Holmes!
Afraid he's dead. Quick, Dr. Watson, go for the police.
And give you a chance to find a bottle of cyanide by my side? Oh, no. Watson, stay here and listen to Marigold confess how he murdered Drenko. You deny? No, thanks to you. I took the trouble to dissect the violin you gave me, and then played one of the others here to lure you in.
He killed Drenko, but the suicide note.
Elementary, my dear Watson. I would hazard a guess that it was torn from the end of a letter to Marigold referring to an unsatisfactory instrument, which was intolerable and which she couldn't endure any longer.
Holmes, Marigold was nowhere near Drenko when he died.
Marigold had left a very oddly constructed violin with Drenko, presumably last night, knowing that it was Drenko's habit to practice each morning from 8 till 10. Inside the violin, in place of a soundbar, Marigold had put a thin glass vial containing cyanogen, the lethal gas which is identical in odor and effects with the cyanide. Good heavens! When Drenko reached the proper high note, the extremely thin glass vial cracked under the impact of the sympathetic vibrations, releasing the deadly fumes through the F-holes in the violin.
And the violin that Marigold was delivering to Drenko when he discovered the corpse...
Precisely, Watson. He merely left that one by the body, planted the note, and carried off the fatal weapon and all proof of the crime in his now empty case. He made only one error. He neglected to tune the violin he left. Amazing, Holmes. Listen very patiently, Mr. Holmes, to your ingenious and utterly imaginary reconstruction. I suppose you can furnish a motive, too? I prefer to spare Lady Ashley the audio medical, but I have no doubt that it was in you she confided that Drenko had been blackmailing her on the strength of their earlier romance. To convict a man of murder, you need something more than words. You need proof. You seem to be overlooking this dissected violin on your desk, with which you attempted to murder me. I fancy that the sample of your handiwork with the vial of gas affixed therein will offer ample proof that...
You'll never send me to the guillotine. I'll kill myself first. But I'm going for traitor.
Not that far, madam.
Precisely what I intend to do. Drop it. Then release the fumes. They will put a speedy end to all three of us. Doctor, it's very well. Give me that pen. We do not want a broken arm.
For heavens, it's an artist. I mean, Inspector Bernard. As you noticed when you commented on his beard and cloak, Watson, the inspector's face and disguise are a trifle flamboyant.
Now, Mr. Holmes, I must extend my thanks to you on behalf of the Sûreté.
Not at all, Inspector. Your promptness in acting in response to my message undoubtedly saved Watson's life and mine. Thank you.
Oh, no, Monsieur Holmes. Thank you.
Very well. Have it your way, Inspector.
Now, Mary Wolf, come along.
Phew, I say it's rather too close a shave to suit me, Holmes. I say that fellow Maribor was very ingenious.
Quite. You know, Watson, I have one bit of regret concerning this case.
Regret?
I find that I have, despite all my protests, ended by acting for Drenko without a fee after all.
Now, Dr. Watson, what about the singular death of Martin Reed?
Well, Mr. Bell, that adventure began late on a foggy evening many, many years ago. Sherlock Holmes and I had been to the Garrick Theatre to see the revival of Martin Reed's play, and I remember that we decided to walk home to Baker Street. As we approached the old familiar door of 221B, our footsteps echoed hollowly in the deserted street, and the chimes of a neighboring church reminded us of the fact that it was midnight.
A delightful evening, Watson. A good dinner, an excellent bottle of wine, and 3 hours of theatrical magic.
Well, personally, I found the play rather depressing.
Its theme is a morbid one, but the writing and construction are flawless. Yes, a magnificent play and well worth reviving. By the way, I noticed an item in the Times this morning concerning Martin Reed. He's dangerously ill.
Oh, really? Well, he must be quite an old man.
82, to be precise.
Well, is he as old as that?
Curious career, Watson. His greatest success was written when he was a young man. In the past 50 years, he has never written anything to compare with tonight's play.
No, I don't think it... Holmes, look up at our window.
Hello. The gas is brightly lighted, whereas Mrs. Hudson invariably turns it low when we're out. And look at the silhouette on the blind. There's a man pacing up and down the room.
Visitor at midnight, Holmes. This looks ominous. Be careful now. It may be some sort of trap.
I think not, Watson. If some desperado were lying in wait for me, I doubt whether he'd be stupid enough to turn up the gas to advertise his presence.
Sam, I wonder how he got in.
Presumably through the front door. Mrs. Hudson has instructions to let a client wait in our rooms if his business seems urgent.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
At your service, sir.
I'm Dr. Manners, Harvey Manners.
How do you do, Dr. Manners? This is my colleague, Dr. Watson.
How do you do, Doctor?
I must apologize for being here at such an hour of night, Mr. Holmes, but my business is urgent.
I'm sure it is, Doctor.
I left Carlisle this morning, arriving at St. Pancras Station 2 hours ago. I came directly here, persuaded your housekeeper to let me wait for you.
Then sit down, my dear doctor, and tell me what urgent business has brought you to London.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Holmes, I've been acting in the capacity of personal physician for Martin Reeve, the playwright.
Martin Reeve? What an extraordinary coincidence. We've just returned from seeing a revival of his play, The Road is Narrow. We were talking about him as we walked home.
I understand the grand old man is dying.
He's not in good shape, Mr. Holmes. His heart's in very bad condition. Auricular fibrillation, Dr. Watson.
No, then at his age, I imagine you don't hold out much hope.
No, but I think with care, he might last a year or two. But the reason I've come to you, Mr. Holmes, is that I'm convinced that although he's a dying man, someone is trying to murder him.
To murder him? Good Lord.
What reason do you have for saying that, Dr. Manners?
Well, Mr. Holmes, I've been in almost daily attendance on Mr. Reeve. Last night, his coachman drove over to get me.
saying that his master had suffered another bad attack. When I got to the house, I found that Mr. Reeve had received a severe shock. He was in a state of almost complete hysteria, and he kept insisting that he'd seen an apparition in his room a few hours earlier. What kind of an apparition? A ghost from his past, as he referred to it. I think that someone arranged for that apparition, that they knew of his heart condition, and also knew that a sudden fright could kill him. It's possible, Dr. Manners, and it would be one of the least detectable methods of murder.
But who would want to kill the dying man?
Who lives at the house with him, Dr. Manners? His daughter Catherine, his brother Silas, who's a drunken good for nothing, and his secretary, a fellow by the name of Hugh Kingslake.
Do you know the condition of Mr. Reeves as well?
No, but I do know he had dictated a new one a few days ago. A fact that might easily have provoked a crisis. Dr. Manners, you say that Mr. Reeves spoke of seeing an apparition, a ghost from his past. Was he able to describe its appearance? Well, he was a little incoherent, but he kept babbling something about blonde hair and blue eyes and a young man who'd come back from beyond the grave to haunt him.
Well, don't you think, Dr. Manners, that these might simply be the delusions of an old and a sick man?
I didn't overlook that possibility, I assure you, Dr. Watson, even though Mr. Reeves' mental faculties are remarkably acute for his age. But last night, after I'd given him a sedative, I examined his room. I found these, Mr. Holmes. That's when I decided to come to you.
Oh, that's horrible. They look like blonde hair.
Yes, they are, Doctor. I found them on the bedclothes, and yet no one in that house has blonde hair. Interesting. Very interesting. The hair is human, and yet the roots have minute particles of blue attached to them. Obviously, they're from a wig. Get out the timetable, Watson, will you?
Yeah, we're going to Carlisle?
On the earliest possible train. Though the grand old man of the English theatre is dying, we must do everything in our power to see that his death is not an unnatural one. Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, I'm Hugh Kingslake, Mr. Reeves' secretary.
How do you do?
Yes, sir. Your accommodations at the hotel are satisfactory, I trust, gentlemen? Entirely,
Yes,
thank you,
we're very
Mr. Kingslake.
comfortable, thank you.
Frankly, I'm most relieved that you're here. Mr. Reeve received a severe shock the night before last. I quite agree with Dr. Manners that someone deliberately induced that shock, knowing the serious condition of Mr. Reeve's heart. Have you any idea who that someone might be? Well, it's a little difficult for me to talk, Mr. Holmes. After all, I'm only an employee here, but I can't help feeling... Oh, good morning, Mr. Reeve.
Kingslake, who are all these men?
This is Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson and Mr. Silas Reeve. How do you do, Mr. Reeve?
And what, may I ask, is the professional meddler Sherlock Holmes doing in my brother's house?
I'm here at the request of Dr. Manners.
Manners has no right to bring you here, sir. A lot of rubbish. All this talk about apparitions. Nonsense. Martin's in his second childhood. He's become a gibbering old fool. Personally, I wish he'd die and have done with
Well,
it.
upon my soul.
Never mind your soul, my good doctor. Why don't you mind your own business and get out of the house? We don't want detectives here.
Mr. Reeve, I've traveled some 200 miles to see your brother, and I have no intention of leaving this house without talking to him.
And talk and the devil with you. And if my dear, distinguished brother tells you that I've been sponging on him for years, it's perfectly true.
Uncle Silas.
Enter the beautiful Catherine to try and persuade her drunken old uncle to return to his room.
No, Uncle Silas. I came to get Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson. Dr. Manners said that Daddy can see them now.
Shall I take them up, Miss Reeve?
No, Mr. Kingslake. I will.
And don't be deceived by the Mr. Kingslake and the Miss Reeves gentlemen. My dear niece and this young man here have a dark secret. A secret that is perfectly apparent to every member of this household.
Uncle Silas.
They're in love. Delightful, isn't it?
Uncle, you're intolerable.
Will you lead the way, Miss Reeve?
Oh, yes, Mr. Holmes.
Don't forget to ask him about the play that made him so famous. You might learn some interesting facts.
I must apologize for Uncle Silas, gentlemen. I'm afraid he's like this all the time these days.
I quite understand, Miss
It
Reeve.
must be very distressing for you, my dear.
Oh, I'm used to it, Doctor. Here's Daddy's room. I won't come in with you. Too many people upset him.
Hey.
Please go in, gentlemen. I'll see you later.
Ah, there you are.
Who is it, Manners?
It's Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, Mr. Reeve.
Ah, good. Good. You can leave us, Manners.
Yes, Mr. Reeve. I'll see you folks later. Very well, Doctor.
Come. Sit on my bed. That's it.
How are you feeling, sir?
Old and ill. But I'm glad you're both here. Manners displayed unusual enterprise in persuading you to visit me. There's been a lot of nonsense spreaded about my impending death. Anyone would think a great man is dying.
The author of The Road is Narrow is a great man, Mr. Reeve.
He was a great man, Mr. Holmes.
What do you mean, sir?
The author of that play died 45 years ago.
What?
And yet, his ghost appeared in this room 2 nights ago.
Mr. Reeve, are you saying that you didn't write The Road is Narrow?
Yes, my boy, I am. And it's a secret that's been gnawing at me for years. Now that I'm on my deathbed, I'd like to clear my conscience.
Then who did write the play, sir?
A young friend of mine, by the name of Colin McGrath. I started life as a lawyer's clerk in Keswick, 2 miles from here. Colin lived in the same village and we became great friends. One day, he gave me the manuscript of his play to look at. And I realized it was the work of a genius. Suddenly he died. And no one knew about the manuscript.
You claimed it as your own, sir.
Yes, to my eternal shame I did. Now, I want to make amends. Mr. Holmes, I want you to find out if any heirs of Colin McGrath still survive. If they do, I'll give them half of my estate.
Mr. Reeve, does anyone else know of this fraud?
Yes. And knowing that I hadn't long for this world, I confided the secret to 3 members of my household.
And you're convinced that the apparition you saw the other night was that of the dead Colin McGrath?
There was no mistaking him. The blue eyes, the long golden hair. It was Colin, or his ghost come to haunt me on my deathbed.
This decision on your part to leave half of your estate to any heirs of the man you wronged, was that decision made before you had this strange visitation the other night?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Did you mention it to any member of your family, sir?
No. I did say something to Dr. Manners, and I didn't mention Colin McGrath's name.
It's obvious that someone wished to frighten you, knew your secret, and disguised himself to resemble Colin McGrath.
Yeah, it was Colin. Never forget his blue eyes. I was standing over there in the chest of drawers. He looked at me so approachfully.
He's asleep. Yes, Watson. And while he lies there, some member of this household continues to plot his death. We must work fast. Well, what are we going to do? Split forces. I shall remain here for a while and see what may be found out. I'll meet you at our hotel later and we'll compare notes.
What shall I do?
Go to the village of Keswick. Colin McGrath lived and died there. See what you can find out about him, Watson.
Of course I remember Colin McGrath.
Well, I should be very grateful for any information about him, madam. As postmistress, I imagine that very little village gossip has escaped you.
Of course it hasn't. I remember the McGrath boy well. He was no good. Didn't he marry poor old Mrs. Norfolk's granddaughter Susan and then go and desert her just to kill himself? And the poor girl was going to have a baby. No good on earth. That's what young McGrath was. And you can tell him I said so if you ever reach the place I'm sure he went to.
Oh, I said, well, they had a child, you say. What happened to it, madam?
How should I know? I'm only the postmistress. You'd better go and see the vicar, young man.
It's a tragic story you've told me, Dr. Watson.
But you remember Colin McGrath, sir?
Oh, very well. And I always suspected something akin to genius in the boy. but he burned with too hard and gem-like a flame. As Walter Pater has said, he burned himself out, destroyed his life, and poor Susan Northrips with it. She died of a broken heart less than a year after his death.
And their child?
There was no money, no one to look after the boy. He was sent to an orphanage in Liverpool.
Then that child, if he's still alive, stands to inherit half of Martin Reed's fortune. If only we can find him. Oh, it's good to be back here at the hotel, Holmes. I've had an exhausting day.
I trust you had better luck than I did. What did you find out?
That Colin McGrath had a child, that his wife died shortly after the child's birth, and that the boy was sent to an orphanage in Liverpool.
In Liverpool? Go on, Watson.
Well, the vicar gave me this photograph of Mrs. McGrath. It was taken on their wedding day.
Let me see it. But this is amazing, Watson. One of our problems is solved.
Well, I'm most if I see how.
Let me explain it to you. After you left, I had quite a long talk with the secretary, Hugh Kingsley. It transpired that he knew nothing of his parents. He'd been raised in an orphanage, and the only memento he has is a picture of his mother. A picture that he carries in his watch.
And that picture
Is a duplicate of this one.
Great Scott, and the fellow calling himself Hugh Kingsley is really the Colin McGrath heir.
Precisely. A fantastic situation indeed. Come on, old chap. Grab your hat and coat. We must drive over to Mr. Reeves and break the good news that the missing heir is a member of his own household.
We're still no nearer finding out who's been trying to frighten old Mr. Reeves.
Surely that's obvious now, Watson. Come in. Dr. Manners, what's wrong?
Please come at once, both of you. It's Mr. Reeve.
Huh?
Yes, Dr. Watson. This evening, he had another visit from that apparition. I'm only afraid this time the devilish plan may work and that Martin Reeve won't live through the night.
In a moment, we'll find out what Sherlock Holmes says is obvious. But first, more and more men today are beginning to realize they should take better care of the hair they've got. And when you buy a hair tonic, why not get your money's worth? Why not enjoy the extra advantages of Kreml hair tonic? Kreml contains a special combination of hair grooming ingredients which is found in no other hair tonic. This highly specialized hair tonic keeps dry, stubborn hair neatly in place all day long, and always gives it such a natural, well-groomed appearance, never sticky or greasy. But men, Kreml does lots more than keep hair looking handsome. A quick massage with Kreml stimulates circulation right in the surface of the scalp, leaving your scalp feeling so alive, so invigorated. At the same time, Kreml removes loose dandruff. It's excellent to lubricate a dry scalp. And if your hair is so dry that it breaks and falls when you comb it, remember Kreml actually helps condition the hair, in that it makes it feel softer, more pliable. So men, just as soon as possible, buy a bottle of Kreml at any drug counter. Let Kreml always keep your scalp feeling clean and refreshed, your hair always looking its very best. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. Well, Dr. Watson, this story certainly has me on the edge of my chair. What happened next? You drove over to Mr. Reeves' house, I suppose.
Yes, well, we did. And as we went rattling down the country lanes, the flickering oil lamps on Dr. Manners' carriage lighting a shadowy path, I found it almost impossible to get a word out of Sherlock Holmes. Holmes, sometimes you're the most irritating man on earth.
And what prompts that little tirade,
You
Watson?
haven't opened your mouth since we left our hotel.
Purposeless conversation is a waste of time. Not much further, is it, Dr. Manners?
Now, Mr. Holmes, we're nearly there.
I don't consider conversation purposes when it clarifies the problem, Holmes. You said it was obvious who had been frightening Mr. Reeve. I suppose I'm stupid, but I find it far from obvious.
And yet the facts are clearly in front of your eyes. Eyes. That's it, Watson. Think about eyes.
The blue eyes of the supposed ghost, eh? Mr. Reeve's family have all got brown eyes. Apparently, it's a marked family characteristic.
Right, Watson. That fact should lead you to the obvious conclusion.
Oh, you're always talking in riddles, Holmes, with the rules.
Here we are, Mr. Holmes.
And Hugh Kingslake is standing at the front door. How is he, Mr. Kingslake?
Better, Mr. Holmes. Seems to have rallied a bit. I'm glad you're all here.
I'll drive my carriage round to the stables. Be back in a moment.
Come in, gentlemen. With Mr. Reeves so ill, it may seem a little inappropriate to announce my news. But Catherine consented to marry me tonight. We're engaged.
Oh, really? My congratulations.
Yes, indeed. She's a charming girl.
Oh, Catherine, darling, I've told them our news.
Oh, it must seem a terrible time to announce it, Mr. Holmes, with poor Daddy lying so ill upstairs.
It's quite understandable, Miss Reeve. And before we go up and see your father, I'd like you both to know that we have something in the nature of a wedding present for you.
A wedding present?
Yes. You're both familiar with the story of Colin McGrath, I understand?
You mean that he was the true author of The Road is Narrow?
Oh, yes, Mr. Holmes. Daddy told us all about
And
it.
did you also know that Mr. Reeve is planning to leave half his estate to the heir of Mr. McGrath?
Daddy told us all
I
about
knew
it.
that, Dr. Watson. In my capacity as secretary, I had occasion to draw up the rough draft of the new will a few days ago.
Then I'm sure, Mr. Kingslake, that you'll be very interested to know that today Dr. Watson and I discovered that you are the son of Colin McGrath.
That I am?
Hugh is the heir? Well, that doesn't seem possible.
The fact is proven beyond a doubt, Miss Reeve.
Then if Mr. Reeve makes the new will, I stand to inherit half the fortune.
Yes, Papa, you do. That's what Mr. Holmes meant when he was talking about wedding presents.
Come here, somebody!
That's Uncle Silas. He's upstairs with Dad.
Knocked over a lamp in Martin's room.
And Daddy's up there.
The room's ablaze.
What? Come on, Watson.
On the hooked up landing, burning homes.
Can't go through this way.
I just can't stand here. Mr. Reeve will roast alive. I'm going after him.
Come back, Kingslake.
Come back. Great Scott, he went right through the flames, Holmes.
Send one of the servants for the fire brigade and tell the rest to bring buckets of water and to bring them fast.
Dr. Watson, how is Hugh?
Well, he's going to pull through, Miss Reeve. He's badly burned, but he'll be all right, won't he, Dr. Manners?
Yes, a few weeks in the hospital and he'll be as good as new.
And Father?
Well, I am afraid he's dead, Catherine.
Dead. Oh, poor Daddy.
Oh, my dear, he might have lived for a time, but the shock of the fire coming so close on top of the other one was too much for him. He died just as I took him from your fiancé's arms.
So that by knocking over a lamp, I was responsible for my brother's death?
Yes, Mr. Reeve, the credit is yours. In fact, I wouldn't be at all surprised if the local police might consider booking you on a charge of arson.
Rubbish! It was an accident, and you can't prove otherwise.
Possibly not. But there's one matter I can settle here and now. 2 nights ago, someone in this house tried to murder Martin Reeve by posing as Colin McGrath. The same despicable action was repeated tonight.
Well, one person that we can eliminate is Hugh Kingslake. He nearly gave his life just now, trying to save his employer.
Then who was responsible, Mr. Holmes?
A feature of the impersonation that especially struck your father, Miss Reeve, was the color of the eyes. He described them as a brilliant blue.
Then that rules out Catherine and me. We both have brown eyes.
Precisely, Mr. Reeve. I have devoted some considerable study to the art of disguise. There are wigs and methods of altering height and weight. But the color of the eyes cannot be altered. Watson, 10 minutes ago, you had the opportunity of examining Mr. Kingslake's eyes without the tinted glasses he's in the habit of wearing.
Well, they did fall off when he stumbled back down the back stairs, but I can't say that I noticed the color of his eyes.
They were blue, Watson. Brilliant blue, just as his father's were before him.
You mean that young Kingslake was responsible?
Yes, Mr. Reeve, I do.
But that's ridiculous, Mr. Holmes. He just hurt himself severely in trying to save Father.
True, Miss Reeve. But surely his reason was obvious. He intended to marry you. And when he learned a few days ago that your father planned to will half his estate to the McGrath heir, he decided to try and kill him before that will could be put into effect.
Oh, I see it all, Holmes. And then tonight, he realized that he was the heir.
Precisely, Watson. And so it was to his great advantage to see that his employer stayed alive to execute that new will. That accounts for his bravery in the fire tonight.
I can't believe it out of Mr. Holmes.
I can. I've always disliked you, and I'll have great pleasure in prosecuting him.
It'd be hard to prove, Silas. After all, your brother did die a natural death.
Yes, Dr. Manners. I fear that legally there's very little we can do to Mr. Kingslake. But when he recovers and realizes that he risked his life for nothing, I think he'll find his own punishment. The change in the will was not made. The estate will be divided between the family, and I doubt if Mr. Kingslake will now acquire any of it by marriage.
No, of course he won't. I'll never see him again.
Quite right, my dear, quite right. What a despicable scheme. And to think that his father wrote one of the greatest plays of our century.
I prefer to forget the fact, Watson. Emotional qualities are antagonistic to clear thinking. I assure you that the most winning woman I ever knew was hanged for poisoning 3 little children for their insurance money. And the most repellent man of my acquaintance is a philanthropist who has spent nearly $250,000 upon the London poor. And now, my dear chap, I think we should look up the next train back to London. Our work here is done.
Well, here it is, Saturday night again, and time for our weekly visit with that excellent host and incomparable storyteller, Dr. Watson. I'm sure he's waiting for us in the old familiar study, so let's waste no time in joining.
Good evening, Mr. Bell. You're punctual to the minute, as usual.
You bet I am. When it's time for Dr. Watson to tell a new adventure he had with the immortal Sherlock Holmes, I'm not going to miss a second.
Nice of you to say so, my boy. Draw up your usual chair and make yourself comfortable.
Before I sit down, Dr. Watson, do you mind if I take a look at the old metal case on the mantelpiece? It wasn't there last week.
No, I placed it there because it played a prominent part in tonight's story. You see, it's a memento of yet another encounter that Sherlock Holmes and I had with the arch-villain of London crime, Professor Moriarty.
But what is it, Dr. Watson? Looks like an old compass.
That's exactly what it is, my boy.
But there are no numerals on it. Just these strange figures around the dial.
Oh, those apparent hieroglyphics helped us to solve one of the most diabolical murders that we ever encountered. I call it the adventure of the half-eaten apple, the Coptic compass, and the unclothed corpse. Well, Mr. Bell, the adventure began on a November morning shortly after the turn of the century. Holmes, seldom one to indulge in exercise for its own sake, had displayed a rare burst of activity and joined me in a stroll through Regent's Park. Just before noon, we retraced our steps. As we turned the corner into Baker Street, I nearly collided with a tall, well-dressed man walking in the other direction.
Why, I beg your pardon.
Oh, that's quite all right, sir.
Excuse me. Aren't you Mr. Sherlock Holmes? I am. I'm Major Stanley. Indeed. You're a little early for our appointment, Major Stanley. This is my colleague, Dr. Watson.
How do you do, sir?
Dr. Watson. I am early, Mr. Holmes, and when your housekeeper told me you were still out, I decided to take a stroll. Then let's walk back together, and perhaps you can tell me your problem as we go. It isn't exactly my problem, Mr. Holmes. You see, I made the count to the Maharaja of Kasul.
Oh, really? It's a very interesting job, I should imagine.
Yes,
You know, I was in India myself, for Peshawar and further north. I was once attacked by...
Quite, Watson. Some other time, don't you think?
Oh, sorry, Holmes.
The Maharaja's problem would seem pressing since his emissary has been so eager to reach us. Please continue, Major Stanley. Mr. Holmes, have you ever heard of the Star of Kasul? A fabulously valuable diamond, isn't it? Yes. It's the treasure of the Maharaja's collection. At the moment, it's in the vaults of the Bank of England.
No, that's the best place for it, I should say. There have been several jewel robberies lately.
Yes, so I've been told. That's why I've come to you, Mr. Holmes. You see, the Maharaja has come to England to have his portrait painted by Sargent. Your problem becomes apparent, Major Stanley. When this portrait is painted, the Star of Kasul will no doubt be set in the Maharaja's turban. And you quite justifiably feel concerned about the jewel's safety. Exactly, Mr. Holmes. It must be cleverly and closely guarded on its daily journey from the vaults to the Maharaja's suite and back.
Well, hardly sounds like a job for you, Holmes.
No, Major Stanley. Without wishing to appear conceited, I may say that such a routine matter is rather outside my scope. The Maharaja insists on having you, Mr. Holmes. I assure you his fee would be princely. Here we are, 221B. Come in, Major Stanley. We'll discuss the matter further, if you like.
Mrs. Hudson, we're back.
Oh, very well, Doctor. Oh, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, Mrs. Hudson?
There were two gentlemen waiting to see you. Said they had an appointment, but they've gone. Said they come back later.
Did they leave their names?
No, sir, they didn't.
That's odd. Thank you, Mrs. Hudson.
Hi, sir.
Let's go upstairs, shall we, Major Stanley?
Very well, Doctor. Regarding your problem, Major Stanley, it occurs to me that Humphrey Fedder might be a good man to see. Humphrey Fedder? Yes, I'm not personally acquainted with him, but I'm told that he specializes in the more physical aspects of detective work. The Maharaja will be very distressed if you refuse him, Mr. Holmes. Naturally, I wish to... I'm sorry, Major Stanley. I've made my decision. I can't handle the case. See Mr. Fedder, if you will. But Mr. Holmes, can't we sit down and talk about it, at least?
Yes, Holmes. After all, there's no need to be rude.
I'm afraid not. Good day, Major. I've heard you were eccentric, Mr. Holmes, but I didn't know how eccentric.
Holmes, what on earth's the matter with you? You ask him up, and then you won't even let him into the room.
For an excellent reason, Watson. Come inside. Look, there on the floor. Great heavens. I could hardly let the emissary of a Raja walk into a room containing a corpse, and an unclothed one at that. Lift the blanket off the face, Watson.
Right you are, huh? There.
Oh, Doctor, the poor man.
Is that the face of one of the men that called here?
Aye, sir, it is.
Cover it again, Watson.
I saw the other one leave, sir. He said his friend had already left. Oh, I never dreamed
This
that...
one you saw leaving, was he carrying anything? A bundle, perhaps?
No, sir, he wasn't.
Could you describe him?
Well, he was tall and thin, and he had a
If
high
he was
forehead.
carrying no bundle, where are the corpse's clothes? There's no sign of them in here.
What a shocking thing, sir. A murder right in your living room. Will I send for the police?
Definitely not, Mrs. Hudson. And please keep this to yourself.
Aye, sir.
When a corpse is deposited on my own carpet, there's a certain point of honor in being able to present the police with a complete explanation when I do call them in. That will be all, Mrs. Hudson.
All right, sir. What a terrible thing.
Holmes, this is incredible. Why leave a corpse here? And why unclothed?
The obvious reason to remove clothing would be to make identification difficult.
Then how did the murderer get the clothes out of here? Mrs. Hudson said that he wasn't carrying anything.
We have many other questions to answer, old chap. The knife wound in the heart gives us no clue, I'm afraid. But observe the singular collection of objects that are lying beside the body.
Well, let's have a look at them. A railway ticket, a funny-looking compass,
And an apple that has been bitten into.
the corpse has protruding teeth. I bet you that he didn't make the bite of this apple. Holmes, these must be the murderer's tooth marks.
If you're correct, Watson, our murderer is an extraordinary man indeed.
Why do you say that?
Because if you look closely, you will notice the interesting fact that this bite was made by two sets of upper teeth.
You're the one who no mistake, Professor Moriarty. 2 sets of upper teeth. Now, that was the best touch.
Yes, Carter. I must confess it was neat. Simple, of course. You start the bite with your upper teeth, reverse the apple, and conclude the bite. Yes, simple. But I trust also somewhat disconcerting for the great Sherlock Holmes. Our past encounters have given me an insight into his very unusual mind.
I'd like to watch his face when he walked in there, Professor.
So would I. But the next 24 hours will give me little leisure, I fear. I must arrange for a certain matter concerning a change of ownership in the Star of Kasul. This should be a fascinating game.
But the old compass, the railway ticket.
Carter, with your somewhat limited cranial development, it must be hard for you to absorb the subtler points in such a plan, but surely its basic purpose is obvious. Sherlock Holmes is about to be engaged by the Maharaja to guard the jewel. I had to divert his attention, so I perpetrated an intriguing murder on his own doorstep and surrounded the corpse with meaningless and completely unrelated objects which I knew would torment his curiosity and keep him off my trail.
And that corpse would take some explaining to the police too, Professor.
Yes, that's why I placed it there. It puts him in an acutely embarrassing position. He has to try and solve the case or become the laughingstock of London.
It's one of your neatest jobs, Professor.
Oh, I won't say that, Carter, but I'm quite sure that I've posed a problem that Sherlock Holmes will be totally unable to resist. I can't resist this problem, Watson. No fee on earth could make me bother with the safety of a mere diamond when such a puzzle presents itself.
On my soul, you talk rather as though you were settling down to a game of chess. You've got to solve this problem, Holmes. And just think if it got to the papers.
I shall reserve my imagination for the problem posed. It is, of course, obvious.
I suppose all you have to do is to find a man with 2 sets of upper teeth. Very simple.
Quite. The only way such an imprint could be left is to take a half bite with the upper teeth, reverse the apple, and repeat the procedure. The only question here is, why indulge in such a bizarre performance?
Well, whatever the reason, those are the murderer's tooth marks.
Unquestionably. You notice the eaten portion of the apple has only just commenced to turn brown. The bite was undoubtedly taken in this room. But to identify teeth marks is a monumental problem and might prove insoluble. Let's turn our attention to the compass for a moment.
Well, I've never seen one like it. No numerals on it, no points, and the compass indicated anywhere. Just a lot of funny little squiggles.
Oh, no, Watson. Surely you recall the singular affair of the Coptic patriarchs?
You overrate my memory, Holmes. In any case, I don't even know what a Copt is.
My dear Watson, sometimes you astound me.
Well, it seems to me it takes very little to astound you. I repeat, What is a cop?
The Copts are the principal Christian race descended from ancient Egyptian stock. What you refer to as squiggles on this compass, in reality, are letters of the Coptic alphabet.
Oh, that makes it more confusing than ever. An apple bitten into by an eccentric, and now a compass with ancient Egyptian lettering on it. I just can't see any relation between the two of them.
And yet we know there must be. That's what makes the problem so fascinating.
Well, what does the compass tell you, Holmes?
Two things. The Coptic lettering on the dial is inscribed by hand. Obviously, it was constructed for a Copt who could speak no European language.
Yes, the corpse was definitely not of Egyptian origin. I'll wager that he was born not too far away from the sound of Bow Bells.
I agree, Watson. And so the problem becomes more confusing. Now, let us examine another piece of this fascinating puzzle. The railway ticket.
Well, it's the unused return half of a first-class ticket from the village of Chipping Sodbury to London.
Yes. And the date stamped on the back is November the 6th.
Today?
Yes, Watson, today. Chipping Sodbury is a tiny village. I imagine that the number of passengers that traveled from there to London this morning could be counted on one hand.
You're going to Chipping Sodbury?
Yes. It shouldn't be too hard to find out who purchased this ticket. And while I'm doing that, I want here.
With the coach?
Yes, Watson. And I suggest that you keep your revolver handy.
My revolver? You mean?
I mean that after what has happened in one short morning in Baker Street, we should be prepared for any eventuality.
In just a moment, we'll see just what eventualities do develop. But first, if you're smart, you'll take better care of the hair you've got. Let me assure you, men, you can't use a better product than Kreml Hair Tonic. This highly specialized hair tonic contains a special combination of hair grooming ingredients which no other hair tonic has. That is why Kreml keeps your hair in place longer. Why your hair always has such a natural, well-groomed appearance, never greasy or sticky. And listen carefully to this, men. Kreml does lots more than keep hair looking handsome. A quick massage with Kreml stimulates the circulation of blood right in the surface of the scalp. Notice how alive, how invigorated, how clean your scalp feels. At the same time, Kreml removes loose dandruff. And if your hair is so dry that it breaks and falls, Kreml actually helps condition the hair by making it feel softer, more pliable. So, men, why be satisfied with a product which merely keeps your hair in place when you can have handsomely groomed hair plus all those extra advantages of Kreml? Buy a bottle as soon as possible at any drug counter. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. Well, Dr. Watson, it seems to me that Professor Moriarty did quite a job in sending you and Sherlock Holmes off on a false trail.
He did, Mr. Bell, and for a while his nefarious plan succeeded. But to take up the story where I left off, while I stood guard in Baker Street over the mysterious corpse, Holmes got the next train for the tiny village of Chipping Sodbury. He told me that after a talk with the village station master, he had no trouble in tracing the purchaser of the first-class railway ticket that we found beside the body. It had been bought by a dignified and elderly clergyman by the name of Russell, and Holmes lost no time in calling on him.
The station master told me, sir, that you were the only person to purchase a return first-class ticket to London this morning.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. I had occasion to make one of my rare excursions to London this morning. But though it was an unfortunate experience for me, I can't think my humble visit to the city could be a matter of any possible interest to you.
I'm very interested in what happened to the return half of your railway ticket, sir.
Very odd you should mention that. A regrettable business. Most regrettable. It was stolen from me by a pickpocket, together with my watch and chain. Didn't notice it until I had occasion to look at the time when I was lunching with the Bishop of St. Luke's.
You've no idea when or where the theft took place, sir?
I walked from the station. The crowds were quite dense, and I do recall being jostled rather heavily on one occasion.
You reported your loss to the police, I suppose.
Naturally, but I have little hope that they'll catch the criminal. Most regrettable business. Cost me a watch and the price of another ticket. An expensive lesson in the frailty of human nature. Do you care for a cup of tea, Mr. Hood?
No, thank you. I'm afraid I haven't time. I must return to London on the next train. Urgent and unfinished business awaits me there. We followed Sherlock Holmes to Paddington Station, Professor Moriarty. Excellent. He caught the train for Chipping Sudbury, no doubt, Carter. Yes, Professor. That's not a good business to him, even if he does find the old clergyman we pinched the stuff from. But it consumed valuable time. Time during which I can complete our plans regarding the Star of Kersul. Before midnight tonight, I think I can safely say that the jewel will be in our hands. How very fortunate that Sherlock Holmes has such a devouring curiosity. Any luck, Holmes? A waste of valuable time, Watson. I found the purchase of the ticket all right. The return half, together with his watch, had been stolen by a pickpocket.
Oh, Lord, so that means we start all over again.
No, Watson. At least one clue has been eliminated. Let us analyze the remaining ones more thoroughly. Now, the problem of the Coptic compass should next engage our attention. A call on the Egyptian embassy might prove illuminating.
You know, Holmes, while you were away, I had a brainwave.
Congratulations.
It was connected with the missing clothes from the corpse. Where, I asked myself, where would be the obvious place to hide clothes? Why, in the clothes closet, of course. So I searched both our wardrobes absolutely thoroughly. They weren't there.
Interesting, Watson. Of course, I'd already done the same thing.
Oh, well?
The problem of the missing clothes is still... Numbskull.
Yes, sir?
Why didn't I think of it before?
What is it, Holmes?
The special wardrobe that I keep for my disguises in the dressing room. Come on, Watson.
By Jove, yes, I never thought of that.
Perfect place for hiding the dead man's clothes. Let's see if there have been any recent additions to this raggedy collection of mine. Costa's outfit.
And there's a clergyman's suit. You always made a surprisingly convincing clergyman, Holmes.
And here's the unfailing passport to many a servant's back door. The stained and roughened worsteds of the English plumber. Yes, these patched and frayed ghosts could tell many a tale of... Hello. Look here, Watson.
Plain blue suit in rather good condition.
Quite. And it doesn't belong in my collection. I think we've solved the mystery of the vanishing clothes.
The labels have been ripped out of the coat.
Yes, and the pockets emptied. All possible identification removed. We're getting warm, Watson. We're getting very warm. Wait a minute.
What is it?
Give me a knife.
All right, sure.
There's something in the lining of this coat. Feels like paper. Perhaps the murderer didn't remove all identification after all.
Here you are. These scissors will do the trick.
Splendid. There we are.
Piece of paper sewn to the padding of the coat.
Yes. Let's see what it tells us. Humphrey Pedder, 118 Montague Crescent, Knightsbridge.
That's the private detective you were talking about earlier on today. Do you suppose that Pedder's the corpse?
At this stage, Watson, I shall suppose nothing. We'll go to Montague Crescent and find out for ourselves.
I can't say how glad I am that we found you alive and well.
From what you gentlemen have told me, Doctor, I feel glad myself to be here. Is it your custom to have an extra identification label sewn into all your clothes, Mr. Pedder?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. A detective never knows what may happen to him. I've always felt such identification might be valuable.
A very sound precaution.
Thank you, sir.
And you would say that a suit of your clothes was stolen from your wardrobe last night?
Yes. And I can't unearth a clue. Embarrassing situation for a detective, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, it certainly is.
Though I'm sure in your position, you've never had a thing like that happen to you.
I doubt, Mr. Pedder, if you know just how embarrassing a detective's life may become.
Yes, indeed. Take our present situation, for instance.
Quite, Watson. Mr. Pedder,
I can't get a word into it.
did Major Stanley call on you today? I suggested that you would be eminently suited to the task of guarding the Maharaja's diamond.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. I'm going over to the Savoy tonight to talk to the Maharaja. Much obliged to you for giving me the recommendation, particularly since I've never had the privilege of meeting you.
I'd heard very flattering reports of your ability.
I'm very glad, Mr. Holmes. Your recommendation means a lot to me.
Well, Holmes, we've drawn another blank.
Yes, Watson. I fear we must return to Baker Street and see if an ancient compass can point the way to the solution. Where to, sir? The Egyptian embassy in Grosvenor Square, Captain.
Watch your Captain.
Jump in, Watson.
I feel a blasted fool trotting around London with a Coptic compass under my arm. I hope this leads us somewhere.
If the excursion proves fruitless, Watson, I'm afraid I shall be compelled to get in touch with Scotland Yard. A few hours delay in reporting a murder can be explained, but beyond that, we may find ourselves in trouble.
I think you should have reported it before this. By the way, Holmes, did you notice the brougham and pair that drove up to Fedder's house just as we left?
I'm afraid for once I was sufficiently preoccupied to yield to you in observation, my dear Watson.
I'm not certain, but I thought that it was Major Stanley who stepped out of it.
Major Stanley? And if Mr. Fedder said that... But of course. What an idiot I've been. Cabby! Cabby!
Yes, sir.
Turn around and drive us to the Savoy Hotel as fast as you can.
What you wanted it? But why the Savoy Hotel, Holmes?
Surely the situation is crystal clear now, Watson.
Just about as clear as porridge to me.
The whole thing's a plot to fool me. Tell me, Watson, that is suggested to you by the combination of an unclothed corpse, a stolen suit, and a railroad ticket.
Well, if I knew the answer, Holmes, I'd have given it to you this morning and saved ourselves a lot of trouble.
The answer, Watson, is organization. A group of well-organized criminals who are able to perform these unrelated tasks. And who is the only person in London who can arrange for running the criminal gamut from murder to plain pickpocketing? Moriarty.
Professor Moriarty?
Of course. Remember Mrs. Hudson's description of our visitor? Tall, thin, and with high forehead. And if you add organization and Moriarty to Major Stanley, Maharaja Kasul, and a portrait painter, the sum total should be apparent.
You mean that you solved the problem of the unclothed corpse?
I mean, I know precisely how Professor Moriarty intends to steal the star of Kasul. Faster, Cabby. There's not a moment to lose.
Mr. Holmes, it's an astonishing story you've told me.
At least it explains my apparent rudeness this morning, Major
I
Stanley.
appreciate the embarrassing position in which my friend was placed, sir.
Oh, yes, indeed. But of course you understand that Mr. Fedder here is now in charge of guarding the Star of Kasul.
Quite, Major. And you're in very excellent hands, I'm sure.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. But your own problem still fascinates me. The unclothed corpse, the compass, and the apple. As a humble exponent of your profession, I'm curious to see how you arrived at your conclusion.
I reached them only just in time, Mr. Fedder. If I hadn't, I should at this moment be paying a fruitless visit to the Egyptian embassy.
Well, I'm still confused, Holmes.
And yet the answer is simple. What was outstanding about the crime committed at Baker Street? What was its individual peculiarity?
Well, I suppose the air of mystery that surrounded it.
I prefer to use the word mystification. The crime fascinated me, stimulated me, as Professor Moriarty hoped it would, until I realized that it was intended to do precisely that. The whole plan was a decoy, designed to prevent me from accepting your mission, Major Stanley. How could I accept such a commonplace job as guarding a jewel, while such a fascinating problem was presented in my own living room?
And the apple and the compass?
Fictional clues that led nowhere, but were sufficiently challenging for the criminal to know I wouldn't be able to resist tracking them down.
Amazing plot. And the railway ticket and the suit of clothes that was stolen from me were all meant to focus your attention elsewhere and away from the diamond.
Exactly, Mr. Fedder.
Well, Mr. Holmes, I assure you we are very grateful for the warning. Yes. We shall be more than ever on our guard now. We know where the danger is coming from. Professor Moriarty. I'm taking the Star of Kasul back to the Bank of England in a few minutes. I assure you that I shall guard it extremely well.
I think, Mr. Fedder, that if you don't mind, I'll take charge of the stone.
But, Mr. Holmes, I've already been commissioned for the work.
That's true, Mr. Holmes. Since you refused the job, I had to make other arrangements.
Mr. Fedder, was your own suggestion for the assignment?
Nonetheless, Major, I think the Maharaja will sleep much more comfortably if I take charge of the stone.
Holmes, I don't think it's very ethical. After all, you did refuse to take on the case, you know.
This is hardly a time for ethics, Watson. Where is the Star of Kasul, Major Stanley?
I just handed it over to Mr. Fedder before you arrived.
Then supposing you give it to me, Mr. Fedder. By the way, I don't have the pleasure of knowing your real name. Watson, the unclothed corpse of Humphrey Fedder still lies in Baker Street. This is one of Professor Moriarty's most trusted henchmen. You're too smart for your own. Look at the revolver. A little slow in drawing it.
A beautiful uppercut, Holmes.
Send for the police, please, Major Stanley. We have a prize catch for them here.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. I can't tell you how grateful I am.
I'll take the liberty of removing the diamond from the pocket of our recumbent friend. There we are. Behold, Watson, the Star of Kasul.
What a magnificent stone.
Magnificent. And yet one man was murdered for it. I only wish another might hang because of it.
But Moriarty still goes free, and he killed Fedder.
We'll catch him, Watson. We'll catch him. He's getting clumsy. If he'd noticed the credentials in Fedder's clothes, he would have been in possession of this bauble before the night is out.
Instead of which, the evidence of this man here may help us to trap him.
I hope so, Watson. But Moriarty inspires his henchmen with such loyalty that I doubt if he'll give us much help. The jewel is safe, our own peculiar problem is solved, and we've captured a prize villain. Next time, we shall capture the master himself.
Now, Dr. Watson, how about the 19th century scandal in which you and the great Sherlock Holmes became involved?
Well, Mr. Bell, that adventure began in the very early days of the great man's career. World acclaim and handsome fees were some years ahead of him. In those times, we spent many long evenings discussing whether a decent living could be obtained by the practice of criminal detection. On the day that this particular story began, we just finished our breakfast. Holmes, a curved pipe clenched between his teeth, was scanning the personal columns of the morning paper. I can almost hear him now, as he said,
Tell me, Watson, the agony column of the Times is more than usually barren this morning.
"Are you looking for a possible client, Holmes?"
Naturally. Since we already owe Mrs. Hudson for 2 months' rent here, and our doorbell has been frighteningly silent during that period, I must see what possible service I may render these unhappy
Well,
correspondents.
I glanced over the column, and I couldn't see anything very promising.
No, Watson, it's a rag bag of bizarre happenings. What a chorus of groans, cries, and bleating. One skims through them, and what does one glean? A lady with a black floor at the Princess Skating Club wishes to meet gentleman who was kind enough to... That we may ignore, I think.
She doesn't sound as though she needs your services.
And here's mine. Surely Jimmy will not break his mother's heart. That appears to be irrelevant. If the lady who fainted on the top deck of the Brixton bus, she doesn't interest me either, Watson.
No, probably anyone else who wasn't on that bus.
Every day my heart longs for...
Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling.
Unmitigated grief.
It is hardly, Holmes. You haven't had a case for over 2 weeks.
Yes. Sometimes I think I chose the wrong profession. What do the public, the great unobservant public who can hardly tell a weaver by his tooth or a compositor by his left thumb, care about the finer shades of analysis and deduction? As to my own little practice, it seems to be degenerating into an agency for recovering lost lead pencils and giving advice to young ladies from boarding schools.
Come over here to the window.
What's wrong, Watson?
Look at that man walking down the street. He's looking at the numbers of the houses.
Let's hope 221B is the number he's searching for. What do you make of him, Watson?
Well, let me see. What do I make of him? Well, I feel that he is a foreigner. Yes, foreigner. Look at those flashy clothes and his pointed moustache.
Oh, don't be misled by externals, old chap. Observe the steady, controlled gait. No trace of the light agility of the Latins, or the military heaviness of the German. No, Watson. I think an English gait in foreign attire would suggest an expatriate Englishman, only just returned from a stay abroad.
He is coming here, Holmes.
Meet him on the stairs, Watson. It'll save Mrs. Hudson a trip.
Yes, all right, you are. All right, Mrs. Hudson. How do you do, sir? How do you do? Would you please come along up? That's right. Straight up here. In here.
Which of you fellows is Sherlock Holmes? I am, sir. And your name is?
Tremaine. Reginald Tremaine.
I'm Dr. Watson. Sit down, won't you? Tremaine?
My business won't take long.
Holmes?
I need protection, and I'm prepared to pay for it.
Protection from what?
My life's been threatened. The police wouldn't do a thing for me, so I've come to you. I've told you detective fellows will do anything for money.
No, really, you've been misinformed, sir. My friend
Your
here
friend
was
is very interested in Mr. Tremaine's problem, Watson. Pray continue, sir.
Holmes, I want you to warn my cousin. Tell him you'll get nowhere by threatening me. Frighten the wits out of him if you can. I'll give you £20, and another 20 if I need you again.
And who is your threatening cousin?
Lord Darling.
Oh, really? Charming fellow.
He's a scoundrel. But his title impressed Scotland Yard. That's why they wouldn't help me. Well, even a title can be vulnerable. A public scandal would shake him. And that's what is going to happen if he threatens me anymore. And you can tell him so from me, Holmes.
I've always heard of Lord Darlington as the very model of an English aristocrat. Why should we threaten you, Mr. Tremaine?
That's none of your business.
Oh, sure, none of your
Your job is to see that he doesn't carry out his threat of thrashing me within an inch of my life.
Very well. For
£20, I shall warn Lord Darlington that I stand between you and a thrashing. The fee will be paid in advance, please.
I have it in this envelope here. And I expect immediate action, Holmes.
You shall have it, Mr. Tremaine.
Holmes, the man's insufferable. Why'd you take on the case? He's a bounder. Let him get thrashed.
These 4 crisp £5 notes persuade me otherwise, Watson. We owe money to Mrs. Hudson.
These
And your
crisp
medical practice shows
money
no signs of picking up. I am
is
take
what's
what
making
ease
you
I
do
can.
it, Watson.
How can my practice pick
Early
up?
days, early days.
I'm chasing all over the country with you.
In any case, Watson, ask yourself why such a man as Lord Darlington should threaten Tremaine with physical violence. Obviously, only because Tremaine is himself in some way a threat to Lord Darlington. There may be yet another fee in this case, and a much fatter one.
You're going to see Lord Darlington at once?
Yes. I'd ask you to come with me, old chap, but after your remark about chasing all over the country, I hesitate to waste your time.
Rubbish. I'm only joking. You know you silly fellow. Of course I'm going with you, Holmes. Get your coat and hat. The game's afoot.
£10,000, my dear cousin, or the scandal will be spread all over London.
It's preposterous, Reginald. And I warn you, if you continue in this vein, you won't get that thrashing I promised.
Oh, no, I won't. I've engaged a detective fellow by the name of Sherlock Holmes. He's going to act as a bodyguard, so you'd better not try any tricks. He should be here any moment.
How dare you bring a stranger into this mess? How dare you?
That's right, my dear cousin. Don't stop your courage with the brandy bottle.
Be quiet, Reginald.
It'll cost you £10,000 to keep me quiet.
I won't pay it.
The scandal will make pretty readings in the newspapers.
Before we go any further, Reginald, I insist on one thing. I shall bring Lady Darlington to her, and you must make this shocking accusation to her face.
I shall be delighted to.
Yes, Jenkins, what is it?
Excuse me, Your Lordship, but there's a Mr. Sherlock Holmes and a Dr. Watson to see you. I told them that you were engaged, but they seem most insistent.
Better have them come in, my dear cousin. We may need independent witnesses.
Oh, very well. Show the gentleman in, Jenkins.
Yes, Your Lordship.
And then if you ask Lady Darlington to come here, I'll be very glad to make my accusation in public.
It's blackmail, Reginald. That's what it is. You'll never get away with it.
Well, Jack, I think you'll be surprised.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Allow me to introduce my cousin, gentlemen, Lord Darlington.
How do you do? Jenkins?
Yes, Your Lordship.
Ask Lady Darlington to step in here for a moment.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Lord Darlington, I greatly admired your speech in the House of Lords on tax reform. I only wish we had met under different circumstances. As it is my duty to rest.
All right, Holmes. I've already told my dear cousin that I'd engaged your services. I want you both here as witnesses.
Witnesses? Why? Reginald has made a shocking accusation. As soon as my wife comes here, I'm going to insist that he repeat the statement to her face. Oh, there you are, Clara.
I have put Gordon to sleep, dear. Hello, Reginald.
How are you, Clara? My dear, I want to introduce Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.
How do you do? Do sit down, won't you? Albert, what's wrong? You all look so dreadfully serious.
Clara, my dear, Reginald has made a shocking accusation. It concerns you, and I insisted that he repeat it in your presence.
An accusation against me?
Yes, Clara, my dear. You see, I'm requesting a paltry sum for concealing my knowledge of the Darlington substitution scandal.
Substitution? What on earth do you mean?
Who should understand me better than you? The baby asleep upstairs. The supposed heir to the Darlington title is not your child.
That's a lie. How dare you say that, Reginald?
Lord Darlington, surely you were present at your son's birth? Oh, as a matter of fact, I wasn't. I was abroad on government business at the time. My wife went to the country with a paid companion. My son was born there.
Oh, no, my dear cousin. A son was born there, and then it was passed off as yours.
That's a full lie. Albert, make him leave this house.
I'm afraid, Clara, my dear, that he's threatened to go to the newspapers. We must hear him out. Lord Darlington, surely the matter is not hard to settle. You say your wife had a companion. Confront her with a story. She can establish the truth of the matter.
Yes, of course she can, but where is she? I haven't seen Maud Harris since she left me a year ago.
Then I have a surprise for you, Clara. She's waiting in my cab outside now. I'll tell Jenkins to send her in. Jenkins?
Yes, sir.
Ask Miss Harris Harris to join us. She's waiting in my cab. Yes.
Albert, I don't know what devil's work Redmond's up to, but you don't believe him, do you?
Of course not, Clara, darling.
Mr. Tremaine, how did you get in touch with this Miss Harris?
For an employee, you ask a lot of questions, Holmes. I met Maud Harris at Brighton last week. As soon as she knew I was the black sheep of the Darlington plan, she thought we might profitably put our heads together.
And so you organized with the idea of blackmailing Miss Paulette.
Such a valuable secret is surely worth a few £1,000s, Dr. Watson.
Maud, yes, Lady Darlington, it's me.
You're just in time to settle the most important truth. I'll handle this, Reginald. Young lady, as I understand it, you came to know that the boy lying upstairs is not my son.
You should know better, Your Lordship. He's mine. Maud, how can you tell such a lie? It's no lie, and you know it, Lady Darlington. Your child was born dead. Albert, please stop saying such things.
Clara, my dear, control yourself. Let's hear this shocking tale to the end. Well, go on, young woman.
You were abroad, Lord Darlington. When her ladyship lost her child, she was terrified. She knew how much you longed for a son, and she made this plan. I was a widow, and I was going to have a child, too. We fooled the villagers, even the doctor, by giving each other's names. And so my son was born as the Darlington heir. Oh, that's the most shocking lie I've ever heard. I can't stay here and listen to any more.
Mr. Holmes, I understand you're a man of discretion and ability in such matters. What am I to do?
I would like to ask this young lady a few questions. Miss Harris, why have you chosen to reveal the supposed truth now?
I thought that money could compensate me for the loss of my boy. But I was wrong. A mother's love can never be stifled.
Indeed, your Excellency, Tremaine's plans for blackmail are purely simple.
Keep out of this, Watson. It's no affair of yours.
Establishing truth and justice is anybody's business, my good man.
Mr. Holmes, I'll pay you any fee you name to disprove this monstrous story.
Oh, no, you don't,
My dear cousin, Holmes is employed by me.
Mr. Tremaine, I've undertaken to protect your physical safety. That pledge I will keep. Otherwise, I'm a free agent.
Then you'll accept my commission?
Yes, Lord Darlington, on one condition.
And what's that?
You have asked me to disprove this story. I would prefer that you ask me to establish the truth.
Of course, Holmes, and spare no expense. Remember, the honor of the Darlingtons is at stake.
Well, little did I think that Tremaine calling us this morning we'd end up the day tackling a village lane in Surrey, looking for a Dr. Godfrey.
And yet, that gentleman must surely be able to give us the final answer. Lady Darlington said that he attempted it.
Supposing the companion's story is true, and they had changed names.
Even so, the good doctor will certainly know whether the boy was born to a slight, blonde woman like Lady Darlington, or a brunette Amazon like Maud Harris.
Well, here's the doctor's house. They said in the village it was the one with the gabled roof.
No lights visible. I hope the doctor's not out.
Seem to be the answer. Funny, I don't think there's anyone at home.
And you will observe, Watson, that this morning's delivery of milk still stands on the doorstep. Curious. Let's explore a little.
Perhaps the doctor's gone away for a few days.
If so, he's a very careless man. Look, that window's wide open.
Think we might go in and look round?
We not only might, we will go in. Too much is at stake to stand on ceremony. Strike a match, Watson.
Sure. I'll light that lamp.
Holmes! Look! The figure's up on the desk. Someone has reached the doctor before us. He shot through the chest.
He's dead, Holmes.
How long would you estimate he's been dead, Watson?
24 hours, that's it.
So now we become involved in murder as well as blackmail.
Well, the answer's perfectly obvious to me. Tremaine came here and shot him. He knew that he could never blackmail Lord Darlington while this doctor was still alive.
Not necessarily, Watson. If the story of the substitution is true, you must realize that one other person would have an equal motive for murder.
Scott Holmes, who?
Lord Darlington himself.
Just a moment, we'll rejoin Dr. Watson and Sherlock Holmes as they endeavor to solve the mystery. But first, they say New Year's resolutions are made to be broken. But here's one which would pay you big dividends to keep. Resolve to take better care of your hair, to keep it better groomed, your scalp hygienic. Start using Kreml hair tonic at once. You see, Kreml is a highly specialized hair tonic. It contains a special combination of hair grooming ingredients which is found in no other hair tonic. That's why it keeps hair neatly in place longer and gives the hair such a natural, well-groomed appearance, never greasy or sticky. But men, Kreml does lots more than keep hair looking attractive. Its light oils have a fine lubricating effect on a dry scalp. At the same time, it removes loose dandruff. And a quick massage with Kreml stimulates the circulation of blood in the surface of the scalp. Notice how alive, how invigorated your scalp feels. And then you like to rub Kreml on your scalp because it's such a clean hair tonic. Never feels greasy or sticky. And if your hair is so dry that it breaks and falls when you comb it, Kreml actually helps condition the hair in that it makes it feel softer, more pliable, and looks as if it had some body to it. So men, for better groomed hair and a hygienic scalp, change to Kreml. Kreml. Kreml hair tonic. Well, Dr. Watson, so you went to interview that village doctor and arrived there to find him dead.
Yes, Mr. Bell, but before we reported the tragedy to the police, Sherlock Holmes conducted an intensive search of the dead man's room. After a moment, he turned to me and said,
Watson, we must see what the inanimate objects in this room can tell us. Aha, here's the doctor's appointment pad. Let's see who his last visitor was.
look, there's the name of Darlington.
Yes, but that tells us little. If the companion's story is true, the word Darlington could refer to either of the women or to Lord Darlington himself. But what are these
Why
letters?
does it always drip when I carry it over there?
Why must doctors have such a legible handwriting?
Doctors don't have legible handwriting.
I disagree. In fact, I've often thought they train you to write badly in medical colleges. Yes. The letters are R-E,
Re Darlington. That means that someone was calling about the Darlington case.
a fact we already knew. Let's see what else we can find. Hello.
Pours out.
Look over here on the sidewalk.
What is
Ran
going
in a
on?
decanter with a strawberry curve.
And one glass that has been drunk from.
Killer must have had a drink after he shot the doctor.
And in so doing, I think he gave us the clue to his identity.
Oh, how?
There's a speck on the rim of this glass. I think it's... the very thing, the doctor's microscope. Most convenient.
What does it tell you, Holmes?
Now, wait a minute. I was right.
All right, let's see if it does it.
This speck on the glass is wax.
Wax? And that means the murderer used a candle.
Oh, no, Watson. Come on. Let's go back to the village and report his death. And then we'll catch the next train
What?
to London.
It just pours out when I...
Aren't you going to stay here and help the police?
This is
Why should I?
insane.
Beyond telling them the name of the murderer.
You mean you know who did it?
Of course. And so should you.
Well, I don't.
But we don't know the answer to the Darlington substitution scandal. That answer, Watson, still lies in London.
£9,500, £10,000. Well, there you are, Reginald. Thank you, my dear cousin.
I'll put the money in my bag, Reginald.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Lord Darlington, that sheet of banknotes in Miss Harris' hand. Surely you didn't pay the blackmail.
I discussed the matter with my wife, Mr. Holmes. She's deeply upset. We both agreed that the scandal, once started, would cling to us for life, even if it was disproved later. That's why I paid the money.
You engaged me as your representative in this case, Lord Darlington. Miss Harris, give that money back at once.
It was a gift from Lord Darlington in front of a witness. If you try to touch it, I shall send for a policeman.
That won't be necessary. Two of them are waiting in the anteroom now.
Police? Oh, Holmes, you shouldn't have done it. I wanted no breath of this scandal to emerge from beyond these four walls.
The fact that police are here has nothing to do with the problems of blackmail. I brought them here to apprehend a murderer.
A murderer? What do you mean?
Dr. Godfrey, your wife's physician, was shot dead during the past 24 hours.
He was killed before he could tell us the true answer to the parentage of the child upstairs.
Murdered. Dreadful thing. Have you any idea who did it?
Every idea, Lord Darlington. But before I expose the criminal, I'd be obliged if you bring Lady Darlington here. And also the child.
Very well, Holmes. This is going to be a terrible shock.
You're suddenly very quiet, man.
Am I?
I was wondering who might have killed Dr. Godfrey.
Unfortunately, we don't have to wonder. The murderer left a clue. After he had committed the crime, he made the mistake of taking a drink.
Darlington's quite a drinking man, you know.
And you have been known to take a drink on occasions too, Mr. Tremaine. For instance, after you had killed Dr. Godfrey.
That's right. Rubbish, you'll say.
You see, the murderer left a tiny blob of wax on the glass.
Oh, what does that prove? Merely that someone had been carrying a candle.
But this wasn't candle wax. It was cosmetic wax, such as you used to wax that pointed mustache of yours.
All right, all of you, I'm getting out of here.
He's left my bag. Reginald, come back here.
I'll go up. No, Watson. The police are prepared to arrest him, but not the young lady. We shall need her cooperation in the last act of this little tragedy.
Sure, now, it's clear by now if Tremaine killed the doctor. Obviously, the whole story about the substitution is a lie.
Not necessarily. Even if it were true, the doctor was still a menace to his plans. How could he and Miss Harris ask the highest price for their secret when the doctor also knew it? No, Watson. Tremaine
We
had
got
a
this
motive
little
for
splotch
the
up here. I'm gonna have to like sand that down a little bit. That run.
Darlington gets here. What up with that parcel? Oh, here it is. Present from a plumber friend of mine. Though the object in this package is only a simple tool of his trade, I feel that it may give us the answer to a peer's inheritance.
So you're being very mysterious?
In a few moments, I propose to conduct a test. You must hide outside the windows. When I turn down the gaslight over the mantel here, Watson, I want you to strike a match, apply to the object in this package, and toss it through the open window. At the same time, cry out the word fire at the top of your voice. I think the results of the experiment may prove quite startling. Lord Darlington, now that all the principals in this case are assembled, I shall conduct my experiment.
Very well, Holmes.
I don't see why I had to bring the boy down here. It's now past his bedtime.
I assure you, Lady Darlington, that his presence is absolutely essential. Please place him in the bassinet on the sofa.
Right.
That's it. And you, Miss Harris, will you be good enough to place your handbag on the table?
Very well, Mr. Holmes. But no funny business now. The police took it away from Reggie and gave it back to me. That money's mine.
Each of you ladies claim to be the mother of that boy. Since scientific tests of parentage are notoriously unreliable, I shall conduct a simple experiment, which I think may give us the truth in this matter. Now, I want both you ladies to come toward me with outstretched hands. That's it. I turn down the gaslight over the mantel, so. It's all right. If you look closely, you'll observe that this object is a perfectly harmless plumber's smoke rock. You can drop the masquerade, Watson. The case is solved.
You know, Holmes, what on earth are you up to?
You will notice that on the cry of fire, Miss Harris ran for her handbag containing the 10,000 pounds. Lady Darlington instinctively rushed to her son. I think, Lord Darlington, that there can no longer be any question of the child's parentage.
Let's get out of the Bible. Come on now.
Midnight, huh? Been a long day, Holmes.
Yes, but profitable, Watson. A very profitable day's work indeed.
Here's 1,000 guineas from Lord Darlington.
And don't overlook the 20 pounds that Mr. Tremaine
Take
gave
me, John. You take you for protection, and you end up by sending it to the gallows.
I only wish I could persuade Lord Darlington to prosecute Miss Harris. Blackmail is a devilish crime.
How did you think that a simple plumber's rocket smoked out the truth?
Yes. No, you'll remember, I've had occasion to use the instrument before.
The old tactical
When
dragon.
the house is on fire, her impulse is at once to rush to the thing she values most. It's a perfectly overpowering instinct.
You certainly took advantage of the fact.
Ah, well, Watson, you may remember the old Persian saying, there's danger for him who taketh the tiger cub, and danger for whoso snatches delusion from a woman.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, Watson. There's as much sense in Hafiz as in Horace, and as much knowledge of the world.
Now, Dr. Watson, what about the adventure of the Carpathian horror?
It all began with this very letter which I have here in my hand, Mr. Bell. A letter from a most prosaic firm of solicitors Holmes and I were at breakfast one spring morning in June 902, shortly after the end of the South African War. Holmes had been bored and restless since the conclusion of our last case, and this was the first time that I'd heard him laugh for days.
I must say, Watson, that the Morning Post has brought at least one unusual communication. Of a mixture of the modern and the medieval, of the practical and the wildly fanciful, this letter is really the limit.
Oh? Why, Holmes?
Listen. 24 Gray's Inn, London, June the 4th. Re-vampires.
What?
Re-vampires. The legal mind is always precise, no matter how off the subject. The letter goes on as follows. Mr. Sherlock Holmes, sir, our client, Count Paul Romany of Grasnia in Carpathia, whose trustees we are, has made inquiry from us. As our firm special, the matter hardly comes within our purview, and we trust that you will be able to take the matter in hand. We hope you will call upon us at your earliest convenience with a view toward undertaking the case. Please ask for our Mr. Atbury. We remain, sir, faithfully yours, Wilkinson, Entwistle, and Dodd.
God, Holmes, that's the weirdest farrago of legal jargon and sheer nonsense I've ever heard.
I wonder, Watson. The mention of Carpathia is most significant.
Significant of what?
For one thing, that remote and mountainous section of southeastern Europe has been the stronghold for centuries of all the legends of vampirism.
Oh, rubbish.
Sure, come, Watson. Where's your spirit of adventure? After weeks of lying in the doldrums, here's a fresh breeze from the unexpected environs of Gray's Inn. Come on, it's a beautiful morning for a walk.
Oh, where to?
Wilkinson, Entwistle, and Dodd. And then I hope Carpathia.
That's pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie.
Really, Holmes, of all the forsaken spots that I've ever seen, this is the worst. Not a lichen site, not a sign of human habitation. You dragged me 2/3 of the way across Europe on what will unquestionably prove a wild goose chase.
At least we have our fishing rods with us, my dear fellow, and we can always console ourselves with the promise of some of the best trout streams to be found anywhere. And you must admit that this mountainous
Tactical dragon, baby.
offers some superb scenery.
I might admit it if I could say it, as it's black as the ace of spades. Quite a phrase.
Ah, there we are. Here, look out of the window on this side. There are the lights of the castle.
Cheerful looking place, I must say. When did that fellow Atterbury say that it had been built?
The first Count Romany built it in...
I almost wish I would have put a rail right along the top of the head here, right along the back. Like right in here.
I saw one. Look at all those turrets, battlements. Probably damper inside and out. Well,
I could flare these out, down and out.
Careful with that.
Put one up along the top.
Here you are, my man.
Follow that driver. If the devil was after him the way he drove off.
He shut us the moment he heard our destination. Evidently the Count's local reputation is not in...
We're getting a very warm reception. They must have heard us, driver. Here's the door. I can't...
Modern conveniences. Let's try the knocker.
I really think this is perfectly outrageous, Holmes. Why the devil... What's it?
Is the name?
Oh, no.
Do you speak English?
What you want? Nobody can come in. Count Romany, I see nobody.
Count Romany is expecting us. Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.
That's so cool, dude. I'm not gonna lie, that's so sick.
Here.
That's so sick.
Come.
Holmes, look at these walls. Look at the oozing gases.
You, wait here. There, Watson. That's better, isn't it? That fire will take the chill out of your bones.
I need something to counteract the effect of all those fabulous portraits. Rum looking lot, aren't they?
Remarkably interesting collection. Curious how the family likeness remains unmistakable through so many generations.
Well, judging from the looks of that fellow in the wig, cirrhosis of the liver must have been another of the family's inheritances. Hard-picking crew, probably.
Careful, Mr. Holmes. I'm Count Romany. I can't tell you how glad I am to see you.
Thank you, Count.
I mean, it really helps show off all the creases.
Dr. Watson, it was good of you to come so far.
I don't even mind that it's kind of splotchy in places. That kind of adds to the effects. You know, that we have it real dark and real light in certain places.
How much my services in London may have told you this before. A very little, Count Romani.
I don't necessarily like how light this is down here. It's pretty light.
Well, my father had me educated in England.
But I think that's just the
Sit down, I hardly know where to begin my story. The whole thing is so horrible. Perhaps it will make it a bit easier for you if I tell you that Mr. Atterbury showed me your letters to him. Then you know that I believe I'm going mad. Or worse. Oh, Dr. Watson will bear me out, Count Romani, when I tell you that people who really are on the verge of insanity never think it of themselves. That's quite so, quite so. I wish I could share that belief. But you see these portraits of my family. There have been strange legends coming down through the years of occasional weird and nameless horrors that have taken possession of each fourth generation. Before Romani died mad, the ape lived out his life in the locked and guarded tower of the castle. And I am the 12th Romani. All old families have legends. That's hardly a basis for any fear. I quite agree with you. But some
All right, so let's take a look at the back then.
I became the 12th Count. A few weeks later, I retired to bed one evening after reading quietly here in the library, only to undergo a dream of such vividness that I shall never forget it. I dreamt of brightly colored corridors, their length stretching endlessly into the distance, their walls echoing with strange, unworldly music. In my dream, I hurried from empty room to empty room, through floods of brilliant, varicolored light. I saw no people, no living thing. Only the rooms of ruby and gold and jet and sapphire and emerald.
That's pretty sick right there. I'm not gonna lie. I like that. I like that a lot. It's pretty light.
Depths of interstellar space. And then again, it would seem so near that I was certain I would find its source in the next room.
14 ounces.
In my endless search for I knew not what. At last,
Is it 16 ounces in a pound?
I awoke to find myself in my own bedroom.
Oh, but my dear fellow, the dream's nothing unusual.
It wasn't a dream, Doctor. It was what I saw upon awaking in my room. My door was still locked, but the rug bore the imprint of wet and naked feet. And across the foot of my bed there lay, still dripping, some strands of weed from the moat of the castle.
Surely there's a natural explanation for that. Yes, my boy. Are you by any chance subject to
420 grams. Almost on the head. Weight is 420 grams. One moment, please. Okay. All right, and this in total weighs 47 grams. Okay, 47 and 420. Boy, that really tells you the difference there. I mean, jeepers. 47 grams, that's super light. ounces, 1.6 ounces. Oh, I can't wait to print that tactical dragon in black. That's what we're going to do. We're definitely going to print it in black as soon as we can. This grip is great. So we added the nub on there, and I wasn't sure how the M-lock nuts were going to rest, because they kind of have to drop. They have to drop into it. They've got this little reduction on the bottom. Okay, this little cutback, a little shelf, you'd call it. So that means that there's a circle that goes around the nut that's a particular circumference. I think it's another 2 mils, making it like 7 mils around, something like that. So this notch had to have a little curvature in it. Come on, camera. Anyway. I like it. I do. Could it be a little bit wider? They could be just a touch wider, but it slid in there just fine. It definitely helps with stopping rotation if it gets a little loose. Like if you're out in the battlefield of life, of the shooting range or whatever, and it gets loose on you somehow, you're smacking it on the ground or whatever, you're in the car and vibrated loose somehow. Or however, this little nub will help prevent it from getting real sloppy, because with just the M-lock, if you don't have this brick in there, she gets real sloppy. A lot of play in there if she's loose, and that is not fun. It's not fun. You don't know where you're going to pull up at. You don't know how your hand is going to sit. So if the worst case happens and it gets loose, it should still function reliably to where you can pull up and be on target. So we sold. I haven't posted since 2 days ago. What happened is over the weekend we had Valentine's Day and nobody bought, and then we sold 5. We had our best day. And that was the last video that I had posted. Now, after that, then that was the next day. Our sales, at the end of Valentine's Day, we sold this, the first one of our vertical hex. It's a vertical grip, M-Lock vertical grip. And people, all of a sudden, I don't know what list it made it on or how it started to get in front of people, but we sold one. Then on the 15th, we sold 12. Like, orders just going off like crazy. Not only did we sell 12 of these in a day, I mean, selling multiple in an hour. Just people were just eating them up. And in doing that, I thought that people were going to buy this. I'm not sure if I have it on video or not, but I've said multiple times, I think this is going to be a hit. But we've got to work on providing people a way to secure it to their device, whatever it is that they're mounting it to. Whether it's their car, their baseball cap, or their shoe for their Crocs. It's a very versatile piece. Wherever you can put M-Lock, you can put this. So I ended up researching what I could get impact 3mm drivers. Okay, impact driver 3mm angle. No, come on, Ethan. Where's your head at? Allen wrench. Okay, 3mm Allen wrench impact driver bit. 3mm Allen wrench impact driver bit in 10 packs. Okay, get them for $1 a piece off Amazon. They're coming. They are coming on their way. So they'll be here on Tuesday, and they're going out with these orders. So for everybody that bought one of these, they're going to get their own impact Allen wrench. That's going to get them most of the way. It's going to get them up to about there. And then, of course, they've got their own little drill input at home or their neighbor. Or that's the best I can do for them. I suppose I can look at buying extra long Allen wrenches. Would have been the other thing. 3mm extra long Allen wrenches. Probably should have did that. Like 5 inches. Why didn't I do that? I expect the people that are getting this are going to have handy tools around. Okay, I could have just sent them just this grip without, been like, but I couldn't. I can't risk them having Allen wrench this long. They just don't. They're so uncommon. They're out there, but it's so rare to have this in your house to be able to attach this. And then the impact Allen wrench kits are also pretty doggone rare. I don't own one at this point in time. I've always wanted one, but I never owned one. Or at least I have. I've lost all of them. You know how it goes. In my mature adult life, I've not had one. So I think that we've gone the right route by going with the impact tip, because everybody's got a little screwdriver, that little yellow handled one that has swappable tips on it, right? Any sort of 1/4 inch driver will get you up in there with that. And help you fasten it down. So this grip then that morning after we sold 12 got taken down at 6 a.m. It sold for about 30 hours, and we sold, I don't know what it was, 12 units in 30 hours, which is pretty, it increased our sales by, we almost doubled everything, 2 weeks of sales in a single day. Partially, mostly thanks to this grip. We sold a number of other grips. I think we sold like 5 other grip packs. We sold a California grip. We sold 2 vertical grips, Picatinny, solid black. Anyway, so it's been a rush, and it was absolutely heartbroken when this was taken down. And why did Amazon take it down? Amazon took it down because it was rated as a gun grip. Okay, it should have been put under the archery accessories. But when I first signed up my Amazon account, my default was gun grips. So you have to get approval from Amazon to list under certain categories and keywords. So this one was listed under gun grip. And the fact that I didn't have bow or archery in the name, in the lead title, I should have had crossbow. That's it. That's all I had to have in there is crossbow and archery. Even just crossbow. Absolutely devastated when they took it down. So I waited a few hours. I waited today. It was today that, yesterday technically, that they took it down, the 16th. And so we went all day yesterday without it from 6 a.m. We got 2 sales from like 1 in the morning to 4 a.m. Our last purchase was like 4 a.m. All of a sudden, 6 a.m. they took it down. By 6:30, I was uploading new photos. So I had taken it and applied it to a picture of a traditional compound bow as like a horizontal vibration stabilizer. And it was a no-go so far. So it's still under review. So they didn't delete it. Amazon hasn't blocked it, but they were like, we think something is wrong here. So I went ahead and I tried to change the title, and I uploaded a new photo with it, with the bow and arrow. No arrow, just the compound bow. And it's currently under review. I'm hoping that they release it so that way I can get the stats from the sales counted towards my store in a positive way. If I get a lot of sales and then I delete the item right away, it's tough to get traction. So it's currently under review. What I did, because I had waited something like 20 hours or what was it? It has not been 24 hours yet, but I waited long enough, right? I waited 12 hours. Even though they say they want to review it for 24 hours. I was not going to miss the opportunity to go ahead and re-upload the product right away. And so that's what I did. I took my product photos. I went to Amazon, listed a new product, defined it out. I had ChatGPT describe it a little bit better. We made sure to refer to it as a crossbow and bow item, while still describing it as a vertical M-lock grip, vertical foregrip M-lock. And that post went under review to see if it was safe for people to purchase. It has since been approved. So this was posted for the first time 9 days ago, roughly 8 days ago, 9 days ago. Then about 7 days in, 8 days in, it took off, right? We sold the first one and then it blew up. We were selling them all over the place, okay? then Amazon shut it down 30 hours into us selling. After 8 days, it's first, from 8 days from zero, first sale, 30 hours in, we're just killing it. Our conversion rates must have triggered a review. Okay, this thing was converting so high that they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We had people buying 3 at a time, another person, 3 at a time. And it was like, what? It literally just sold its first one, and people are out here buying 3 at a time from a brand new company, a brand new designer. I'm so honored and really grateful to everybody that purchased this. And I'm grateful to Amazon for reissuing it for sale on their platform. Even though I had to jump through some hoops and put the archery stuff on it, the one that I uploaded where it's listed as archery in the title, search title, I don't have the picture of it. It's just this sitting. I uploaded the old one that was a review. I uploaded the picture of it horizontal attached to a bow. So if it gets approved, I have to go through and delete that absolutely ridiculous bow and arrow photo out of it after it gets approved. And then I can delete the secondary listing, the new listing. But time will tell. So I'm kind of shocked at Amazon's review process. Like, they're not, like, when one of my products gets reviewed, like, you would think that it would trigger a whole store review. Like, they're like, hey, we're coming, we got to look at what's in your whole store. They don't. They just look at that single product. So anyway, I'm just shocked at the products that get taken down and the ones that get left up. It's kind of a weird game, and you just got to keep playing it. You just got to keep playing it. We'll figure it out. I was clearly wrong to not have the archery and bow in the title. It's weird. I'm currently getting away with my AR grip pack on there. That's listed as a gun grip. It's got AR in the name, and it doesn't say anything about bow or archery anywhere in there that I can see. I believe I could go back and review it. And that one is just selling away, slow and steady. 1 to 2 packs a day. I think that's good stuff. Thank you, everyone. Sold 2 cross packs today. We sell a cross pack every Sunday. Sold 2 today. Thank you. I think that's going to do it for the live stream. I'm going to get the printer going here. We've been at this for 3 hours. And everything worked out. Our new rail ladder design is just come out and tested successfully. I was complaining the other day about not having something returned to me. It was this. This is all I need. I just needed the aluminum version of this. Let's get there. If I would have known, and if I had the money, I would have just bought one. So, for example, this is our old rail ladder. You can see how it's so thin, super thin. There's almost nothing catching this edge down here. It's really, really slim. Easy to get off. or so I was hoping. These, as it turns out, did work. They did work for some of them, but for some of them, it also was not a fit. So it was like, oh, darn it, man. And I gave a bunch of these away. I felt like such an idiot. So we made them significantly wider. And deeper. Okay. So they're wider, deeper, beefier, safer, better for the customer to manipulate. Continue rail ladder, clip on. I don't know if this is the wide one or the narrow one. Flexes right over it. That's what I'm talking about. Nice, flush grip cover right there. It does flare up at the ends a little bit because it doesn't have anything holding it down out there. Oh, it's because it's flared out. It's not flush out there. It's like these all have a square bottom underneath them. This at the ends it's flared, so that's why the ends are kicking. But I mean, really nice, flat, flush face. Really smooth on the hand. I'm not gonna lie. There's like just a. It's not like. It's pretty much butter, but there's like just a little bit of something there. Doggone it, is that nice? Way nicer than the rough Picatinny rail. Disassembly has been tough. These are not rubberized. Okay, so once they're on there, they're pretty much on there. I had to be real careful about how I got mine off, not trying to break them backwards, snap them apart. I think I'm going to send these out uncured, so they're as soft as they can be and as malleable as they can be. Oh yeah, she'll come off there. She got quite a bit of flex in it. So just I got one of the ends started, and I'm just going to peel it back. Boy, having this in one hand and trying to get it on camera. Let's see if we can break it. Nope, she popped right off. Nice. And can certainly be reestablished on there. Wow, wow, wow. Very, very neat. Love it. Our new M-Lock rail ladders are going out. Successfully tested. Everything was a successful test so far today. I might try throwing a flashlight on Tactical Dragon quick. Why don't we do that? Okay. Tactical Dragon is getting its first attachment. Yeah, you thought you didn't need a tactical dragon, but in reality, I beg to differ. What happened to my power? Is my battery dead? Unless I just blew my bulb out. Which is also a potential. I would think it would be darker if the battery was going dead. It seemed to have quite a bit of power. All right, we're going to assume the battery's dead. But, oh no, there she is. Oh, I think my tape is holding the clicker on. Yeah, the tactical dragon is a real thing. Can you imagine this coming through the door while you're doing CQB? Isn't that just crazy? Look out, and it gets your light off to the side for you. I mean, like, out of the way. That is pretty sick, dude. I'm not gonna lie. That is pretty sick. As far as comfort in the hand, I mean, it definitely could be wider. It definitely, that grip, it definitely could be wider. It's pretty small. But I think as far as a first product goes, this is great. This is just nuts. The freaking tactical dragon. It's official. It's definitely official. Not the flashlight in the front on the bottom? Heck no. You need a flashlight on this side, you know, a laser on the other side. And then you need a thumper. You need a thumper down here off the chin. Thumper off the chin. Which might break the chin, might break the whole chin off. We don't know. We don't know until you guys test it. You guys are going to have to test it. You have to buy this. You have to take it out somewhere. And I think this is crazy. I think this is just nuts. I hope you enjoyed the first reveal of the tactical dragon. Oh yeah, that is truly one of a kind right there. Just crazy. Just crazy. Yes! Yes! Do you know how long I've been dreaming of making this? Something similar to this? Basically this. I mean, it's morphed into like different versions. Just by scale, you can't exactly have this exact thing scale appropriately all the way back through the rest of your device. But this is special. This is special. Cheers to you, whenever it is, whatever day it is, whatever year it is. Thank you for watching and being a part and hanging out and enjoying the essence that is this space and this creation out of this mind. Thank you. and cheers. God bless you.